Chapter 1297. 1297. Big Dipper took out the key and opened the front doors. Sis Feng, I wanted to hire someone to clean the house this whole time, but I couldn't find anyone. They weren't willing no matter how much money I gave them. In the end, I had no choice but to forcefully make the brothers in the alliance come to clean it. Because they were afraid, they formed groups of 3 to 5 to clean up every time. Say, why did you buy this haunted house? You can't even hire a servant. Box Nouvelle Coem. I think it's quite nice, Yuanwan said. Nice my ass. Sis Feng, the keys for you. I still have some business, so I'll be leaving now. I'll come drive you to the office tomorrow. Big Dipper turned to leave. Yuanwan quickly pressed down on Big Dipper's left shoulder. Big Dipper turned around, confused as to what Yuanwan wanted. I still have something to discuss with you. Come inside with me, Yuanwan calmly said. I have something to do. Tomorrow. We can discuss it at the alliance tomorrow. Big Dipper shook his head vehemently, as though unwilling to enter this haunted house. No, it has to be right now. Yuanwan glared at him angrily. To his lament, Big Dipper was dragged inside the haunted house by Yuanwan. It had to be said that this manor was rather big. Besides the mansion itself, there was also a swimming pool and a private garden and courtyard. Everything you might need was there. There were a dozen or so rooms inside the mansion. It was at least 700 to 800 square meters big, which made it very spacious. Its haunted and dismembered body case history added a creepy and horrifying aura to this manor. As soon as Yuanwan stepped into the mansion, goosebumps crawled over her body. Big Dipper turned the lights on, and the dark room immediately lit up. Sis Feng, is there anything else? If there isn't, I really need to go. Big Dipper gulped as he examined the enormous haunted house. It's late already. I think you should find a room and stay the night. You can leave tomorrow, Yuanwan suggested pensively. However, Big Dipper's expression shifted the second he heard that. No, Sis Feng. I suddenly remember, my mom got hit by a car recently. She's in the hospital, so I have to go to the hospital. Before Yuanwan could say anything, Big Dipper shot outside like he was fleeing and disappeared without a trace. Yuanwan's lips twitched. Was Big Dipper really that scared of a haunted house? A long while later, Yuanwan gathered up her courage and walked around the mansion like she was sightseeing. A row of bone-chilling paintings were inside the mansion. Yuanwan even discovered the bones of a beast displayed in all corners like an art piece. Yuanwan could ascertain that Bro Flattop was a pervert, a lunatic. Soon she found Bro Flattop's bedroom. Thankfully, there weren't any weird and peculiar objects inside the bedroom. It was designed rather simply. To her surprise, Yuanwan found a photo. A man dressed elegantly in a suit was in the photo. He bore an unworldly quality and was very good-looking. Perhaps because this man's appearance was truly too eye-catching that Yuanwan stared at it for a while. However, she was on the brink of death, so she didn't have any interest in enjoying this beauty. She put the photo down and curled up on the bed. She wished for this night to pass faster so daylight could come faster. A haunted house really wasn't a place for a human to stay in. Yuanwan felt like she was about to have a meltdown. Outside the manor, a man in a black suit looked at the lights on inside the haunted house and dialed a number. Emperor Ji, I didn't see wrong, the man said. The man added as an explanation. I was passing by and coincidentally saw Fearless Alliance's Big Dipper escorting a woman here. Later, Big Dipper left and the woman stayed. She isn't the counterfeit from the Nye family. All right, I understand. Soon the man hung up and drove away. Chapter 1298. The next morning at dawn, Yuanwan was woken up by a light knocking. Yuanwan barely closed her eyes the whole night, as she laid on a bed inside the haunted house. She finally couldn't hold on when the sky started turning bright, and rested for a little while. When she heard the sound of knocking, she thought it was Big Dipper, so she immediately put on her slippers and left the bedroom. When she opened the front doors, the person who entered her eyesight wasn't Big Dipper. It was a man with a faint smile on his lips. The man was wearing very normal clothing, but she could still sense the aura of a superior from him. Yuanwan instinctively became alert. At the same time, some odd scenes suddenly flashed through Yuanwan's mind. This good-looking man inexplicably gave her a sense of familiarity. Box Nouvelle Coem. Yi Wanwan's eyes glinted as she recalled. Isn't this the man from the photo I found in Bro Flat Top's room? No wonder he's so familiar. Won't you invite me inside and sit down? The man asked with a chuckle. Yi Wanwan returned to the present when the man finished speaking. Since he found her, he was probably someone from the Fearless Alliance, right? Soon, the man entered the mansion at Yi Wanwan's gesture. Xiaofeng, how have you been these past years away from home? The man chuckled lightly as he looked at Yi Wanwan. I've been fine, Yi Wanwan answered. Yi Wanwan's suspicion grew. This man called her Xiaofeng. In other words, his relationship with Bro Flat Top was probably unusual. They probably weren't merely superior and subordinate. The man walked to Yi Wanwan, his eyes as unfathomable as the starry night burning into Yi Wanwan's eyes. Xiaofeng, you've changed. You're a lot calmer than before. You also seem to be better looking. An amused smile hung on his lips as he said those words. Yi Wanwan chuckled lightly as a flimsy response. Of course she freaking changed. Ignoring the fact that she wasn't Bro Flat Top, Bro Flat Top herself would have changed drastically after disappearing for so many years before reappearing. Bro Flat Top supposedly disappeared when she was in her late teens, and girls underwent an enormous transformation in appearance in their teens and 20s. Hadn't he heard of the saying, a girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood? Before Yi Wanwan could say anything else, she caught a whiff of a delicious scent and automatically clutched her starving and rumbling stomach. Hungry? The man smiled lightly. Your favorite bento? I made it myself. The man handed a bento to Yi Wanwan. You made it yourself. Yi Wanwan turned more surprised. What was the relationship between this man and Bro Flat Top? He personally made a bento for Bro Flat Top to eat, and also called Bro Flat Top Xiaofeng. Yi Wanwan's intuition told her that this man was most likely Bro Flat Top's admirer. Thanks but no need. Yi Wanwan cautiously shook her head. The man didn't say anything to that, and carefully put the bento away. Xiaofeng, you just returned, but the Fearless Alliance isn't as good as the past, so you must be careful about everything and can't act rashly. Then the man gently poked Yi Wanwan's nose, and left the mansion without waiting for a response from her. Yi Wanwan had a deep frown on her face. Although she guessed the man might be Bro Flat Top's admirer, there was something off about it. She didn't sense any romantic feelings from his eyes. It was more like an older brother's indulgence and familiar feelings toward a younger sister. Just who is that man? Chapter 1299 Sis Feng. Yi Wanwan was standing in front of the door, lost in thought, when Big Dipper suddenly ran toward her with a solemn expression. The heck are you screaming for? Yi Wanwan jolted in fright and asked with displeasure. She could relax slightly in front of Big Dipper. He wasn't too bright, so he was easier to deceive. No. Sis Feng, are you alright? Big Dipper had a deep frown as he carefully examined Yi Wanwan. Then Big Dipper turned to look in the direction the man left in and said heatedly, Sis Feng, how did that man find this place? Fuck, it must have been because our Fearless Alliance cleaned out some of the patrician families that belonged to Emperor Ji before. They planned to seek revenge. Box Nouvelle Coem. Yi Wanwan was surprised. What did Big Dipper say? Who in the world was that man just now? I really didn't expect Emperor Ji to personally come here. Sis Feng, did Emperor Ji come to negotiate with you? That man is one of the most dangerous men in the independent state. You mustn't be careless, Sis Feng. Big Dipper anxiously cautioned her with his fists tightly clenched. Emperor Ji. A storm raged through Yi Wanwan's mind when she heard that name. How could Yi Wanwan be ignorant about Emperor Ji after obtaining some knowledge about the independent state's situation? The heir of the Ji family, one of the 4 great clans. Moreover, Emperor Ji's own power wasn't inferior to the Ji families in the slightest. He was the emperor of the underground syndicates in all of Europe, and his position was unshakable. With the exception of piece of shit, he was the most dangerous man in the independent state. That man just now was actually the renowned Emperor Ji. However, Yi Wanwan was a bit confused. Why did Emperor Ji call her Xiaofeng, and even personally make a bento for her? Could it be that Emperor Ji also liked Bro Flat Top? Or was it for some other reason? However, if Emperor G was pursuing Bro Flat Top, why didn't Big Dipper know about it and even thought Emperor G came to negotiate with her? Yuanwan felt her head swimming. Weren't the relationships a bit too tangled and complicated? I'm fine, don't make a scene. Yuanwan glanced at Big Dipper. All right then. Big Dipper shrugged. He wouldn't say anything else since Yuanwan herself said she was fine. A moment later, Yuanwan finished packing up and entered Big Dipper's car, heading toward the office. When they arrived at the Fearless Alliance's headquarters, Yuanwan went to her personal office. There was already a giant pile of documents waiting for her attention early that morning. Yuanwan couldn't help but snort at the contents of those documents. If she guessed correctly, either 7-star or those old geezers were using these documents to test her. Thankfully, Yuanwan helped Si Yihan handle quite a few similar documents while she was in China, so she dealt with it all smoothly. These documents included detailed information of the branches who betrayed the Fearless Alliance, some information about their relationships with enemy factions, and some difficult collaboration proposals with a few major factions, etc. Sisfeng, here's the information about those old geezers. Big Dipper entered the office without knocking. Remember to knock before entering next time, Yuanwan dryly said as she took the files. Big Dipper scratched his head. Okay. After Big Dipper left, she detailedly examined the information about the old geezers. Yuanwan finally obtained a detailed view of the Fearless Alliance's situation through Big Dipper's files. Chapter 1300. 1300. These elderly people had a high status in the Fearless Alliance, seemingly even higher than Big Dipper and 7-star. They were old seniors who had followed Bro Flat Top since the beginning. Moreover, every person had their own confidants and followers, monopolizing half of the Fearless Alliance's experts and manpower, and some of them were patriarchs of the martial arts patrician families in the independent state. Yuanwan held her head. This was rather tricky. Box Nouvelle Coam. This matter would be hard for even the real Bro Flat Top to handle, let alone her. These people might be respectful toward her on the surface, but who knew what they were thinking inside? Their power had grown stronger as the years passed, so they were probably discontent about the real Bro Flat Top, let alone her, the fake Bro Flat Top. Yuanwan was looking at the information and pondering over a course of action when someone knocked on the office door. Enter, Yuanwan called. Xiao Fengfeng. As soon as Autumn Water entered the office, she hugged Yuanwan from the back. Yuanwan. Did this woman have to be so passionate every time? After releasing Yuanwan, Autumn Water asked mysteriously in a sing-song voice. Guess who's here? Yuanwan, could they freaking stop making me guess? They're all fatal questions. Emperor Ji is here. Autumn Water looked excited. Yuanwan's expression shifted when she heard that. Why's Emperor Ji here again, Xiao Fengfeng? I'm so jealous that you have a fiancé like him. You were missing for so many years, but he never gave up on you and kept searching for you. Autumn Water commented wistfully. Yuanwan was utterly dumbfounded. What? Fiancé? Emperor Ji is Bro Flat Top's fiancé. When Autumn Water saw something off about Yuanwan's expression, she said with a chuckle, Don't worry, only I know Emperor Ji is your fiancé. I didn't tell anyone else. Yuanwan turned pensive when she heard that. No wonder Big Dipper was cautious and looked like he was facing a great enemy. It appeared he didn't know about the relationship between Bro Flat Top and Emperor Ji. The only person who knew about Emperor Ji being Bro Flat Top's fiancé in the entire Fearless Alliance was Autumn Water. Just as Autumn Water finished speaking, Yuanwan saw the man from earlier this morning entering her office with a smile on his face. I'll leave you be. I'll leave you be. Autumn Water gave Yuanwan a suggestive smile when she saw Emperor Ji and quickly left, considerately closing the office door behind her. Yuanwan felt like her mind went through a blender, and her emotions were flying everywhere as she looked at Emperor Ji in front of her. How sinful. The relationship between Bro Flat Top and Emperor Ji was actually like this. How should I treat Bro Flat Top's fiancé? Cute and helpless looking or cold indifference? Since Bro Flat Top was Emperor Ji's fiancé, there was no way she would treat him coldly. Should I be more enthusiastic? Can you eat it now? Emperor Ji placed the bento on Yi Wanwan's desk with a faint smile on his lips. Thanks. I even troubled you to make it personally, Yi Wanwan said with a chuckle, looking at the bento as she tried her best to calm down. It's no trouble. Didn't you keep pestering me to make a bento for you back then? I'm used to it. Emperor Ji replied with a gentle chuckle. Yi Wanwan, bro flat top, what freaking kind of sin have you committed? You actually dared to let Emperor Ji personally make a bento for you. Chapter 1301. 1301 You can take away your man. I don't want him. If Emperor Ji discovered she was pretending to be his fiancé, at that point, she'd not only have to face a hunt from the Fearless Alliance, but also all the underground syndicates in Europe. Worst case scenario, even one of the 4 great clans of the independent state, the Ji family, would hunt her down. She'd truly be 12 feet under. Eat it while it's hot. It'll get cold soon. Emperor Ji said to Yi Wanwan with a chuckle. Yi Wanwan had no choice but to helplessly open the bento box. When she saw the contents of the bento, she was startled. She thought it would at least include some swallow's nest and abalone even though it was just a bento, considering Emperor Ji and bro flat top status. However, there were only a few pieces of lean pork and some vegetables aside from rice inside the bento. Bro flat top. Like to eat these kinds of things? Based on the rumors about bro flat top, and after learning that bro flat top lived in a haunted house, she'd believe it if someone told her bro flat top was a cannibal. Hence, she didn't imagine bro flat top's eating habits to be so simple and homey. She wasn't used to bro flat top as a normal human being. Yi Wanwan separated her chopsticks and tried the food. She immediately looked up at Emperor Ji with surprise. Aren't this man's cooking skills a bit too good? Does it suit your taste? Emperor Ji asked. It's very good. Yi Wanwan nodded honestly. You only like to eat this, so I only know how to make this. Emperor Ji chuckled. Yi Wanwan's little heart skipped a beat when she heard that. This man is quite good at flirting. In less than 10 minutes, Yi Wanwan ate the entire bento. Emperor Ji was sitting on the sofa. He lightly waved his hand at Yi Wanwan. Come sit here. Yi Wanwan was somewhat hesitant. This man is bro flat top's fiancé. However, she instinctively felt an extremely dangerous aura coming from him. A superiority that shouldn't be undermined. She was currently playing the part of bro flat top though, so she had no choice but to walk toward Emperor Ji and sit next to him. How did you spend the past few years on the outside? Emperor Ji's unfathomable and alluring eyes landed on Yi Wanwan. Although this man's every word sounded like part of a casual conversation, there was also a deeper meaning behind every word that caught her off guard. Yi Wanwan gathered her thoughts and stayed alert. She mirthfully answered, It's naturally worse than being at home. Emperor Ji nodded. You probably weren't all alone these years, right? What do you mean? Yi Wanwan's brows furrowed. For example, you were with another man. Emperor Ji nonchalantly said. What in the world do you mean? Are you suspecting I did something that wronged you? Yi Wanwan inquired furiously. Although Yi Wanwan had an infuriated expression, she was actually scared to death on the inside. How did she know who bro flat top spent the past few years with on the outside? And whether she did anything that wronged her fiancé? She wasn't bro flat top. Ji Xiran shook his head. No need to be angry. I was just asking. I still have some business to attend to, so I'll take my leave now. Then he slowly stood up, and his slender fingers brushed past the tip of Yi Wanwan's nose as he said, Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Ji Xiran. Without giving Yi Wanwan a chance to respond, Ji Xiran left. A storm raged through Yi Wanwan's mind as she watched Ji Xiran leave. What in the world did Ji Xiran mean? She was basically his fiancée right now, so why did he introduce himself to his fiancée? Chapter 1302 There was no way bro flat top didn't know his name was Ji Xiran. Could it be, he saw through my identity? Yi Wanwan was stunned and shaken. However, Yi Wanwan didn't detect any malice in Emperor Ji's eyes. If Emperor Ji really found out she was pretending to be his fiancée, she probably wouldn't live past tomorrow. What in the world was going on with this man? Yi Wanwan couldn't figure it out immediately. Seeing that Ji Xiran was leaving, An elderly man standing by the office door followed Ji Xiran, and they left the Fearless Alliance together. The smile on Ji Xiran's face disappeared the second he stepped out of the building, and it was replaced by endless gloominess. What do you think, Professor Zhou? Ji Xiran asked the elderly man next to him. Professor Zhou looked a bit hesitant and said a moment later, Emperor Ji, are you sure that woman is the president of the Fearless Alliance? That's right, Emperor Ji replied. All right, then I also have an answer. Professor Zhou nodded. After some brief thinking, he turned to Ji Xiran and slowly said, Emperor Ji, if I saw things correctly, then the president of the Fearless Alliance doesn't have amnesia. Instead, it's memory masking. Professor Zhou was a great scholar who was on the level of Mount Tai and Big Dipper in this area of expertise. He had researched memory masking for several decades, and the team he led were the international experts, so he was extremely confident he hadn't seen things incorrectly. What do you mean? Emperor Ji asked coldly. Emperor Ji, it's like this. Memory masking is a method that can wipe away a person's original memories, then forcefully implant memories that don't belong to them, and cause them to believe them without a doubt. Professor Zhou continued. It's apparent that the president of the Fearless Alliance's original memories have been wiped already, and she had memories implanted that don't belong to her. Is that so? Ji Xiran's face looked like a millennium-old glacier, and emanated a heart-stopping and bone-chilling dangerous aura. So you're saying that she lost her own memory and thinks of herself as the owner of some foreign memories? Ji Xiran said. Yes, according to my observations, that's right. An amnesiac person would have obvious signs in their body language or speech patterns to us professionals, and their logic might even be disordered or confused. However, the president of the Fearless Alliance isn't like that. She possesses extremely strong logical and reasoning abilities. Hence, based on the president of the Fearless Alliance's speech and actions, there are two possibilities. The first is that she didn't lose her memories and knows her past. The second is that her memories were masked. Professor Zhou explained extremely cautiously as he watched Emperor Ji teetering on the brink of a volcanic eruption. Emperor Ji didn't say anything. Every word spoken from the mansion to the Fearless Alliance was meant to probe tentatively, and worryless reaction made him certain she truly lost her past memories. Interesting. Ji Xiran's lips turned up into an extremely dangerous smile. Professor Zhou trembled and turned as quiet as a cicada in winter. Even his breathing slowed. Professor Zhou, aside from your team, who else is capable of accomplishing a difficult project like memory masking? Ji Xiran's humor-filled gaze landed on Professor Zhou. Professor Zhou's expression changed when he heard that. A mere gaze from this man made him jump intensely. Chapter 1303. 1303, Emperor Ji. We didn't know the president of the Fearless Alliance, and we've never had a single interaction with her. Professor Zhou hastily explained. Emperor Ji, I swear on all my clan members and students' lives that we never conducted any memory masking on the president of the Fearless Alliance. Professor Zhou, no need to worry. I just wanted to ask who else possessed this technique aside from you. Emperor Ji said with a chuckle. That's hard to say. From what I know, there's also a small research team in China. If you want, I can immediately look into them. I will definitely shine light on the truth for you, Emperor Ji. Professor Zhou vehemently swore as he used a handkerchief to wipe the sweat off his forehead. Wonderful. Then I'll trouble you to look into it. I'll give you 2 months. Then Emperor Ji left without looking back, and entered the luxurious car in front of them. Emperor Ji, is that person Miss Worryless? A young man wearing a black suit asked. Yes, Emperor Ji answered after a pause. Joy surfaced on the young man's face. However, her memory was replaced. Emperor Ji said darkly. What? The young man was shocked, disbelief overcoming him. The second Emperor Ji saw Yuanwan that morning, he confirmed this girl was truly Worryless Nia, and the birthmark Autumn Water from Fearless Alliance mentioned also proved it. She was completely different from the fake Worryless in the Nia family. Worryless Nia left the Nia family, and had been with her grandfather since she was young. So Madame Nia was separated from Worryless Nia more often than not, and wasn't all too familiar with Worryless Nia's birthmark. However, the elders of the Fearless Alliance like autumn water went through fire and water with worryless Nya. So they were very familiar with her birthmark, autumn water especially. Since the birthmark on worryless Nya was a bit unusual, it was nearly impossible to make an identical copy of it. Also, the third Miss, Nya Linglong, wasn't very familiar with worryless Nya's birthmark, so she couldn't replicate the birthmark to its true, original likeness even if she found someone to pretend to be worryless Nya. Emperor Ji, I know about the lunatic project, memory masking. If Miss Worryless was really, then doesn't that mean? Just which malicious person has such a deep hatred toward Miss Worryless? The young man was infuriated. Duan Fei. Ji Xiran turned to the young man. Yes, Emperor Ji? Duan Fei responded. Worryless might have lived in China before this. Head to China immediately with skeleton, Ji Xiran said. Emperor Ji, you mean? Duan Fei looked contemplative. Bring back all the people Worryless has been in contact with these past few years. If you discover the culprit who replaced Worryless memories, kill them without mercy. The corners of Ji Xiran's lips turned up. Duan Fei's heart trembled when he saw that signature extremely dangerous smile on Emperor Ji's face. This time, Emperor Ji was truly angered. Duan Fei promptly answered, Don't worry, this subordinate understands. Inside the office, Yuanwan was deeply immersed in her work. She wasn't there to be a king and live in ease and comfort at all. There was a giant pile of documents waiting for her attention, and she was more miserable than a white-collared worker working overtime. Most importantly, Yuanwan didn't dare to carelessly handle some of these documents since many of them were related to the Fearless Alliance's ongoing issues with the opposing factions. If she handled them carelessly, the slightest mistake could lead to inconceivable consequences. Zisfeng. A moment later, Seven Star's voice, along with the sound of knocking, was heard outside the office. Chapter 1304. Enter. Yuanwan regained her cool facade. Seven Star entered with Big Dipper behind him. Zisfeng, did you finish going through the files? Big Dipper asked when he reached Yuanwan. What is it? Yuanwan looked impatient. Zisfeng, since when were you so hardworking? Why don't you relax a bit? You must have learned a lot of new tricks after being gone for so long. Perform one for us, how about it? Big Dipper said as he excitedly rubbed his hands together. Yuanwan frowned. Perform one? Perform what? Perform a transformation? Zisfeng's magic tricks are on the same level as those great magicians who come to the independent state from the outside world to earn money. Seven Star joined in with a chuckle. Yuanwan's heart skipped a beat. So it's magic tricks. Why do they want me to perform a magic trick out of the blue? Yuanwan wasn't dumb. She naturally knew Seven Star came to test her again. You want to see me perform a magic trick? Sure. Yuanwan's eyes swept over their surroundings before she picked up the water cup on the desk and drank all the water in one gulp. Look at this cup. Yuanwan handed the cup to Seven Star. Seven Star took the cup and examined it momentarily. It looks fine. Is there anything inside the cup? Yuanwan asked. No, Seven Star answered. There's water. Big Dipper hastily interjected. Yuanwan glanced at Big Dipper. Didn't I drink all the water just now? Oh, I see the little beads of water that are still inside. Big Dipper said as he stared at the cup in Seven Star's hand. Yuanwan, I'm gonna fucking kill you with a slap. Is Big Dipper a moron? Please ignore the beads of water. Yuanwan sighed. It was so tiring to talk to Big Dipper. Oh, then there's nothing. Big Dipper nodded. All right. Yuanwan took the cup back from Seven Star. She pulled up her sleeves in front of them and waved her hands. Is there anything inside my hands? There's a ring. Big Dipper exclaimed. Are you sure you aren't a freaking clown hired by an ape? Yuanwan exasperatedly took off her ring. There's nothing now, Big Dipper said. Watch carefully. Yuanwan had a solemn expression. It's time for you to witness a miracle. Yuanwan raised the cup high in the air in front of them, and the duo really didn't look away. Slap. In the next second, Yuanwan harshly slammed the cup onto the desk. Tell me what's inside, Yuanwan said. Zisfeng, you're joking, right? How could there be anything inside? Big Dipper pursed his lips. I think there's nothing, 7-Star answered dryly. Come look into it. Yi-Wan gestured for 7-Star to come up. Soon, 7-Star looked into the cup. Big Dipper became shocked, and astonishment flickered in 7-Star's eyes. There was actually a little pearl under the cup. Yi-Wan relaxed when she saw 7-Star's expression. It appeared Bro Flat Top also liked magic tricks, and was fairly talented and knowledgeable about magic tricks. Otherwise, 7-Star wouldn't have used magic to test her. Thankfully, she learned a myriad of things. In her previous life, she frequently watched magic trick reveal shows, so she roughly learned some magic tricks herself as time went on. Plus, due to her rebirth, Yi-Wan even knew about the magic tricks that were even more mysterious and awe-inspiring from the future. These magic tricks weren't invented yet in this current world. Chapter 1305. In truth, this little magic trick was very simple. Yi-Wan plucked off a pearl button from her clothes earlier, and placed the pearl on her right ear when Big Dipper and 7-Star weren't paying attention. When the cup slammed down onto the desk, the pearl button coincidentally dropped into the cup, so the trick was all inertia and physics. Big Dipper and 7-Star's attention was focused on her hand and cup, so they didn't notice her right ear. Damn, Sis Fong. Your hand was kissed by an angel, right? So awesome! Big Dipper exclaimed as he picked up Yi-Wan's right hand. Let me try. Big Dipper immediately picked up the cup and firmly slammed it onto the desk. The cup was then shattered into pieces with a bang. Big Dipper scratched his head when he saw 7-Star and Yi-Wan both turning to him. He was surprised himself. Sis Fong, although it's awesome that your hand was kissed by an angel, my hand is even more awesome. It was bitten by a dog. Your hand is fine. It's your brain that was bitten by a dog. Yi-Wan swept the shattered cup into the trash can. Big Dipper opened his mouth, wanting to say something but held back. Sis Fong, you remember Master Li, right? 7-Star suddenly asked Yi-Wan. Although Yi-Wan didn't know any Master Li or Master Zhang, she had to go with the flow, so she said, I do. What is it? Then does Sis Fong still remember what Master Li does? 7-Star stared at Yi-Wan intently. Yi-Wan was suffering on the inside. 7-Star was so freaking scheming. How would she know what Master Li did? Scram to the side. You take so long to say anything. Let me say it instead. Big Dipper shoved 7-Star to the side and leaned closer to Yi-Wan. Sis Fong, you know how Master Li is a famous great painter in the independent state, right? His art exhibitions and art sales were all conducted by our Fearless Alliance, and the profits every month were rather significant. Big Dipper continued. However, 2 years ago, Master Li suddenly stopped cooperating with the Fearless Alliance. Master Li is most afraid of you, Sis Fong, and you returned at the perfect time. Call that old geezer and warn him. Yi-Wan inwardly gave Big Dipper a thumbs up. Lad, no wonder your brain was bitten by a dog. You have a bright future. Oh, that happened? Yi-Wan became angry and snorted. It appears he's gotten muddle-headed with his age. If that old geezer knew Sis Fong was back, he'd definitely be scared to death, Big Dipper said. Then Sis Fong should take care of it right now. Without giving Yi-Wan a chance to object, 7-Star used his phone to dial Master Li's number. Yi-Wan glanced at 7-Star. 7-Star, are you telling me how to conduct business? 7-Star wouldn't dare, but this matter is rather urgent, so it's better to act on it ASAP, 7-Star said. Urgent? Master Li stopped working with you for a few years already, but you're calling it urgent now? What the heck were you doing before that? He was clearly testing her. Still, Yi-Wan had no choice but to handle it. 7-Star, I told you already, my paintings are none of the Fearless Alliance's business. An elderly man's voice rang out from the phone. Yi-Wan took the phone and snorted before murmuring. Master Li, it looks like your temper is rather flared up. How about I have someone bring you some herbal tea to clear your internal heat? Who are you? The elderly man sounded surprised. Chapter 1306. 1306. Master Li, we merely haven't seen each other for a few years, but you already can't recognize my voice? Yi-Wan asked. Haven't seen each other for a few years. Could it be your President be by phone? The elderly man was incredulous. It looks like Masterly isn't muddle-headed. Since you aren't, why did you do such muddle-headed things? Yi Wanwan's voice became more imposing. Sir President, when did you return? Didn't you die? No. There's a misunderstanding about this matter. There must be some misunderstanding. The elderly man's voice trembled slightly. Masterly, let's not waste words. You're a great painter, so you naturally paint on paper and use your hand to paint. Tell me, should I send paper over to you? Or should you send your hand over to me? Yi Wanwan asked with a snort. Masterly sounded like he was sobbing when he said, No. President, you're a benevolent person. Please pardon this little one for his wrongdoings. This little one can't lose his hand. How could a painter lose his hand? Then I'll have someone send paper to you. There shouldn't be any problem, right? Yi Wanwan chuckled lightly. No, there's absolutely no problem. No problem at all. The more paper you send, the better. Masterly scrambled to say, All right then. Yi Wanwan hung up. Confusion flickered through Seven Star's eyes as he looked at her. This woman's style truly bore some similarities to the president. Damn. You're truly my sisfong. You resolved it with a few words. That old geezer relied on the fact that he had some connection with our enemy factions, so he ignored the Fearless Alliance. Now he knows to feel scared. Big Dipper sneered. Enough nonsense. Let's go eat. Yi Wanwan casually tossed the phone to Seven Star. Sisfong, let's go to Heavenly Pavilion. They brought in lots of fresh products, Big Dipper said. Seven Star's eyes glinted. Sure. Although Yi Wanwan didn't know what Heavenly Pavilion was, she had to act like she knew. Soon after, Seven Star and Big Dipper left the Fearless Alliance with Yi Wanwan. When Autumn Water discovered they were going to Heavenly Pavilion, she demanded to tag along too, so she went with them. Xiao Feng, how about we go to the casino after Heavenly Pavilion? There's also the Beast Combat Arena and underground boxing. Didn't you used to love going there? Autumn Water said with her arm around Yi Wanwan's shoulders. Yi Wanwan wore a smile on her face, but she was screaming, FML in her mind. She had no idea how to gamble, nor did she know anything about the Beast Combat Arena and underground boxing. Why didn't Bro Flat Top focus on managing the Fearless Alliance? Why in the world did she have to have so many hobbies and interests? She seriously dug a hole for me. Sure, let's bet on a few rounds if we have time. My hands just happen to be itching. Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. It'd be fine if she just had to be some money-dispersing child. Hee, Sisfang's hands were kissed by an angel. You win every bet you make and have hardly ever lost. You're truly talented in gambling, Big Dipper said with a chuckle. Yi Wanwan. Does Bro Flat Top want me to freaking die? Truly talented in gambling? Is Bro Flat Top a skilled cheater or something? It looked like it was impossible for her to silently be a well-liked money-dispersing child. A moment later, Seven Star parked the car near a luxurious estate. The sign Heavenly Pavilion was hanging above the main doors. Thankfully, Heavenly Pavilion wasn't some strange place, and was merely a restaurant. It appeared to be a rather famous restaurant with extremely unique menu items. Chapter 1307. 1307. The Heavenly Pavilion had 4 levels in total. Normal people from the independent state could only dine on the first level. Some martial artists and mercenaries could enter the second level. The only people who could enter the third and fourth levels were wealthy, respectable, and came from powerful backgrounds. After entering the Heavenly Pavilion, Yi Wanwan surveyed her surroundings. It had to be said that this restaurant was truly extremely luxurious, and could even be described as extravagant. Master 7, Master Big, Sister Autumn Water. A middle-aged man's expression slightly shifted when he saw them, and he personally came out to greet them. Did your eyes move to your ass? Don't you see Sisfong? Big Dipper looked at the middle-aged man with a chilly expression. What? The middle-aged man's expression dramatically changed as he turned to look at the cold-looking woman next to them. Hasn't Bro Flat Top been missing for many years? Rumors said she died already. What's this? President? You're back. The middle-aged man had an ingratiating smile as he looked at Yi Wanwan. Enough nonsense. Give us a private room. Autumn Water ordered impatiently. Yes, yes, yes. Please follow me. The middle-aged man bowed and acted very cautious. Soon, Yi Wanwan's group stepped onto the 4th level and entered a luxurious private room. Yi Wanwan was stunned as she read the menu. Flying dragon. Aquatic hegemon. Earthly hegemon. What the heck are these? Sis Feng, didn't the flying dragon used to be your favorite? How about we order it? Big Dipper asked cheerfully. Yi Wanwan nodded with feigned understanding. It's been a while since I've tasted it. Yi Wanwan then ordered the flying dragon. A moment later, a heavenly pavilion waiter served some dishes. Hello, this is the earthly hegemon. Please enjoy, the waiter said. Yi Wanwan tasted it immediately. Smells so good. The taste of a beast is truly extraordinary. Big Dipper ate heartily. A beast? Yi Wanwan's expression shifted. What freaking kind of meat did they serve me? Anyhow, it definitely isn't normal. Isn't it edible though? The flying dragon, please enjoy. A moment later, the waiter finished serving all the dishes. Sis Feng, your favorite is here. Big Dipper said happily. When Yi Wanwan saw the supposed flying dragon, she wanted to smack her head into a wall and end it all. The flying dragon. I knew it. Isn't this freaking fried ants? There were numerous martial artists in the independent state, so there were countless high-end restaurants like the Heavenly Pavilion. The ingredients they used were all high in protein, so that the energy burned off by martial arts training every day could be replenished. Sis Feng, why aren't you eating it? Big Dipper asked when he saw that Yi Wanwan wasn't eating. Yi Wanwan wanted to throw up with one glance at the fried ants. Who wants to freaking eat it? Who ordered this thing? You don't like it, Sis Feng. That's true, girls shouldn't like to eat this kind of thing. 7-Star aloofly said as his gaze landed on Yi Wanwan. However, before 7-Star could continue, Yi Wanwan picked up her chopsticks and stuffed a mouthful of fried ants into her mouth. Not bad. The taste didn't change too much. Yi Wanwan commented with a nod after swallowing the fried ants in one go. Autumn Water, do you want some? Yi Wanwan looked at Autumn Water. Autumn Water vehemently shook her head. I don't really like to eat that. Yi Wanwan, look at how normal Autumn Water is. And then look at Bro Flat Top. Isn't her taste a bit too fucking weird? Chapter 1308. As the saying went, it was better to deal with painful things quickly. Yi Wanwan stared at the plate of fried ants and ate the fastest she'd ever eaten in her whole life to finish the entire plate of flying dragon without any hesitation. As Yi Wanwan repressed her strong desire to throw up, she said with a smile, delicious. Delicious my ass. How about we order another plate? You usually eat 2 or 3 plates, Sis Feng, Big Dipper asked. Big Dipper, I'm going to punch you and make you a bigger idiot. Before Yi Wanwan could say anything, a chortle was heard from outside the door. Biox novel. Com. A second later, the door was opened and a dozen or so men poured inside. The leader was a middle-aged man who was impeccably dressed in a suit and wore a pair of gold-framed glasses. Sir President, you aren't still dead? The man in a suit joked as he looked at Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan turned to the man in a suit. His speech and attitude were incredibly arrogant, but Yi Wanwan was sincerely grateful toward him. If it weren't for his sudden appearance, Big Dipper would probably have ordered 2 more plates of fried ants for her. When they saw the man in a suit, 7-Star was expressionless, but Big Dipper had a light frown. Big Dipper looked at Yi Wanwan and said quietly, Sis Feng. He's Li Machin, the illegitimate son retrieved from the outside 5 years ago by the 3rd elder of the Fearless Alliance, Li Si. Yi Wanwan was slightly surprised by Big Dipper's words. So this man in a suit was also a member of the Fearless Alliance, but he dared to be so arrogant and bossy toward the president of the Fearless Alliance. How come? Ah, Sis Feng, the Fearless Alliance is no longer the old Fearless Alliance from before you left. Its internal management is divided into 2 parties. The elders form one party and a majority of the Fearless Alliance's power is currently controlled by those old geezers. This Li Machin is a prodigal son who relies on 3rd elder's power and looks down on everyone, but no one dares to offend him. Big Dipper quietly explained with a sigh. If this was before and the president hadn't gone missing, who in the Fearless Alliance would have dared to be disrespectful toward the president? Third Elder himself would be respectful and well-behaved toward the president, let alone Li Machin, Third Elder's illegitimate son. Yuanwan came to a realization as she listened to Big Dipper's quiet explanation. Biok's novel. Com. Currently as the president, she was nearly considered a mere figurehead by the old geezers who were truly in control of the Fearless Alliance. Thus, even an illegitimate son of the Fearless Alliance's Third Elder dared to provoke her on her doorstep. Li Machin, you're extremely gutsy. You dare to disrespect the president? Autumn Water stood up and admonished Li Machin. Huh? President? Li Machin sneered. The president has been missing for so many years, she probably died on the outside. Now some random stray casually comes here and claims to be the president, and I have to kneel down and believe her? How impudent. Autumn Water rebuked. Who said you could talk? Li Machin raised the glass of red wine in his hand, and splattered the red wine onto Autumn Water's face in front of everyone. You're dead. Big Dipper grew furious and immediately stood up. Li Machin, if I don't kill you today, I'll take your surname. Autumn Water marched toward Li Machin with a dark expression. However, several strong men blocked Autumn Water, before she could take more than a few steps, preventing her from approaching Li Machin. Ha ha ha, Autumn Water, you're nothing but a mere dog of the Fearless Alliance. You dare to touch me? Li Machin acted utterly fearless. Chapter 1309. 1309 Li Machin sneered. Autumn Water, just wait. I'm eventually gonna strip your clothes off and fuck you until you beg for mercy. You, upon hearing such crude words, Autumn Water's face was so dark that ink was nearly dripping from it. Before Autumn Water could say anything more, Yuanwan abruptly stood up and strolled toward Li Machin. Scram. Yuanwan's bone-chilling gaze swept over the strong men that surrounded her. The strong men frowned. It was unsuitable for them to both leave or stay. Oh. Are you planning to revolt? Yuanwan's lips curled up, revealing an utterly icy smile. The strong men sunk into silence at Yuanwan's words, hesitation surfacing on their faces. No matter what, this woman was currently the president of the Fearless Alliance still. Scram! Yuanwan shouted harshly. The strong men reflexively turned to the side. Yuanwan stepped forward and reached Li Machin. Do you fucking really think you're the boss of the Fearless Alliance? Li Machin raised the wine glass in his hand and prepared to throw it at Yuanwan. However, before Li Machin could do that, Yuanwan lifted her arm. In the next second, a crisp slap was heard. Yuanwan had mercilessly slapped Li Machin's face with the back of her hand. You fucking dared. Li Machin looked at Yuanwan incredulously. Slap. Slap. Yuanwan snorted and slapped him 2 more times before he could finish speaking. Who do you think you are? Yuanwan looked at the dumbfounded Li Machin and coldly said, Even your father wouldn't dare to be so arrogant to me. I'm asking you, who the hell do you think you are? Slap slap. Yuanwan mercilessly served Li Machin several more loud slaps. It had to be said that Li Machin truly had a thick hide. Yuanwan's hand was aching from the slapping. I'll kill you. Li Machin returned to his senses and flew off the handle. He wanted to retaliate. However, Big Dipper's figure flashed, and he firmly restrained Li Machin from behind, preventing him from moving. Big Dipper. You bastard. Just wait, I'm gonna tell my father to kill you. Li Machin growled. Oh, you bastard, you want your father to kill me? Sure. I'm gonna kill you first today so that you can wait for me in hell. Big Dipper replied with contempt. Why are you standing around? Hit them. Unable to move, Li Machin furiously looked at the strong men around him. These strong men were all his father's underlings and were all first-rate experts. The leader of the strong men looked hesitant. Li Machin could disregard authority and act like a tyrant with Third Elder backing him, but they couldn't. If they attacked the president. Move if you want to die. Yuanwan's gaze was akin to a sharp dagger. In the end, the strong men brought by Li Machin were suppressed by Yuanwan's overwhelming aura, and didn't move at all. They all stood in their spots without a word. Are you all fucking deaf? Li Machin angrily shouted upon seeing his subordinate's lack of action. Slap. Another ruthless slap was bestowed on Li Machin's face. Yi Wanwan picked up a chopstick from the table and fatally held it against Li Machin's Adam's apple. Chapter 13:10. You haven't answered me yet. A cold glint sparkled in Yi Wanwan's eyes as her lips pulled into a bewitching smile. Answer what? Li Machin shouted. Tell me who you think you are, Yi Wanwan murmured. Li Machin was about to talk when Yi Wanwan suddenly applied force through her hands. A second later, the chopstick broke through Li Machin's skin and rivulets of blood flowed down following the chopstick. Yi Wanwan. Shit, isn't the quality of this chopstick too good? I just wanted to frighten Li Machin, so why did I poke through? Astonishment surfaced in Seven Star's eyes as he looked at her. If this woman wasn't Sis Feng, would she really have had the guts to offend Third Elder like this? Ha! You dare to kill me? Fear finally appeared in Li Machin's eyes. Even if the woman standing before him was truly Bro Flat Top, how could she have not understood the Fearless Alliance's current situation with Bro Flat Top's intelligence? The true president probably wouldn't have dared to treat him like this, right? Let alone a fake president. He didn't believe this woman would really dare to kill him, but Li Machin couldn't help but falter when he saw the unconcealed murderous intent in her eyes. Killing you would dirty my hands. I'll spare your life. I think your father will give me an explanation tomorrow. Yi Wanwan snorted and distastefully tossed the bloodied chopstick aside. Big Dipper, Yi Wanwan called, turning to Big Dipper, who was standing behind Li Machin. Yes, Sis Feng. Big Dipper grinned and stepped up fawningly. Toss out this eyesore, Yi Wanwan ordered. Sure. Big Dipper nodded and clutched Li Machin by his neck before telling Autumn Water. Autumn Water, open the window for me. Huh. Autumn Water was taken back. Big Dipper, this is the 4th floor. So what if it's the 4th floor? Sis Feng told me to toss him out, so I'll do it even if it's the 40th floor, Big Dipper replied. Yi Wanwan. I freaking meant for you to toss him outside the door. Who said anything about throwing him out from the 4th floor? The distance between each level in this restaurant was very large. The 4th floor of the Heavenly Pavilion was equivalent to the 6th or 7th floor of a normal building. Don't misunderstand. Let's talk things through. Li Machin's expression shifted when he saw Autumn Water actually opening the window. The strong men brought by Li Machin clenched their fists and looked like they wanted to stop them. But none of them dared to act rashly in front of Yi Wanwan. Swish. 2 breaths later, Big Dipper tossed Li Machin out the window. Yi Wanwan inwardly clutched her forehead and her lips twitched. She really hadn't intended on throwing Li Machin out a 4th floor window. Why, are Big Dipper's comprehension skills so powerful? He was the one who tossed the person but shifted the blame onto her. Big Dipper clapped his hands. He looked at Yi Wanwan and said with a grin, Sis Feng, he probably fell to his death. If not, he'll be severely crippled. Good job. Yi Wanwan was exasperated but had to smile and put on a pleased front. Damn it, that old geezer, Third Elder, was powerful beyond words in the Fearless Alliance, and controlled more than half the Fearless Alliance's power. Even if the true president of the Fearless Alliance returned, she would probably be cautious and wary of him. Look at what I've done now. I sent Third Elder's illegitimate son to an inch of his life. I've established a feud. Chapter 13:11. What are you standing around for? Why aren't you hurrying to see if your young master is dead yet? Big Dipper asked the strong men. The people brought there by Li Machin all rushed out upon hearing that. What a downer. Autumn Water snorted. That bastard dared to splash red wine on me. If he doesn't die today, I'll kill him eventually. Enough, hasn't Sis Feng avenged you already? Li Machin is utter garbage. His body already turned hollow from all the wine and women a long time ago. With his awful health, he'd be an inch from death even without a drop from that height, Big Dipper joked. Xiao Feng Feng is the best. Autumn Water hugged Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan was already accustomed to Autumn Water's passion, so she reacted calmly. In truth, although she acted just now partially to imitate Bro Flat Top, the fury and protective feelings that rushed into her heart when she saw Li Machin saying such crude things to Autumn Water were genuine. Sis Feng, third elder isn't someone to be trifled with. You should be more cautious, 7-star told Yi Wanwan aloofly. When Yi Wanwan heard that, her lips turned into a cold smile, as though she didn't care about some third elder. Forget it, we're done eating. What a downer. Sis Feng, let's go to the casino and gamble a few rounds. Big Dipper suggested enthusiastically. Yi Wanwan, can I not go? I still haven't recovered from the trauma of the flying dragon. Can't I get some time to get over it? Soon, their group walked downstairs and left Heavenly Pavilion. I still have some business to attend to. Have fun. 7-star turned around and left by himself. So much damn business. Big Dipper glanced at 7-star before promptly ignoring him. Yi Wanwan relaxed slightly upon seeing the most troublesome 7-star leaving. This feeling was akin to seeing her head teacher leave the classroom. After 7-star left, Big Dipper drove the car away. Half an hour later, the trio arrived at a grand, luxurious casino. At a place like the Independent State, the gambling industry was thriving and grand. Luxurious casinos like this weren't a rare sight. The periphery of the casino was filled with digital gambling machines while the interior was filled with the types of games people could gamble their lives and possessions on. Sis Autumn Water, Master 7 rare guests. As Yi Wanwan's group entered the casino, a middle-aged man in a well-ironed suit hastily came up to greet them with a bright smile. What, don't you see our president? Big Dipper tossed his signature arrogant red hair, and his beautiful, flirtatious eyes cooled, the murderous intention in them making the man shiver inexplicably. This guy might act silly and innocent when he was in front of Yi Wanwan, but he could be rather terrifying when he was on the outside. The middle-aged man's figure trembled and he instantly turned to Yi Wanwan, his expression shifting. The president of the Fearless Alliance. The president of the Fearless Alliance, Bro Flattop, has been missing for many years, but she actually returned. Since Big Dipper himself said this was Bro Flattop, it had to be Bro Flattop. President, we haven't seen each other in many years, so I didn't recognize you. It's my fault. How about this, Bro Flattop? We'll give you 1 million bargaining chips tonight for you to use as you please. The man in a suit said with a smile as he looked at Yi Wanwan and wiped his sweat. A greeting gift of 1 million bargaining chips. Am I that respected? Yi Wanwan was inwardly shocked, but she looked contemptuous on the outside. She coldly said, Do you think I lack 1 million bargaining chips? The man in a suit was taken back and vehemently shook his head. And no. Your esteemed self naturally wouldn't lack that money. This little one misspoke. Chapter 1312. 1312. When the man finished speaking, he lifted his right arm and slapped his own mouth. Yi Wanwan was rendered speechless. Bro Flattop truly had a merciless reputation in the Independent State. Enough nonsense, take our president inside already. Autumn Water was a bit impatient. Right. Come and play however you wish, esteemed guests. Please enter. The man in a suit instantly nodded and led Yi Wanwan, Big Dipper, and Autumn Water into the casino's inner area. Yi Wanwan soon stopped in front of a gambling table. There were 5 men sitting around the table, and the dealer was currently dealing the cards. Yi Wanwan knew nothing about gambling. If it was some dice game, perhaps she could play a few rounds, but she'd never touched card games before, nor did she have any interest in them. However, Bro Flattop's gambling skills were reported to be very good, and she would visit all the major casinos and play a few rounds nearly every week, winning more than losing. Unfortunately, Yi Wanwan didn't know how to gamble and had no choice but to serve as a money giver. Yi Wanwan was forced to sit down unwillingly. Everyone, you lost again. Yi Wanwan had just sat down when an extremely beautiful man in a tracksuit whose ink hair reached his waist announced aloofly, and he collected all the gambling chips for himself. The other 4 people sighed simultaneously and tossed their cards onto the table before leaving. Fuck me. Big Dipper was taken back when he saw the beautiful man. His expression drastically changed, and he reflexively wanted to leave. Yi Wanwan's only reaction was a slight raise of her brows as she thought, Is the average person in the Independent State this attractive? She was able to run into such a good-looking person at a random casino. However, Yi Wanwan was merely thinking objectively. It was like seeing a beautiful flower, and being unable to help but glance at it a few more times. After all, she was a worldly person and lived with a man like Si Yihan for 2 lives. Any other stunning beauty would be nothing but mere smoke drifting past her eyes. When Yi Wanwan thought up to this point, an unavoidable bitterness arose in her heart. 2 whole lives and she still couldn't see through that person. Si Yihan. No matter what, she had to find him. Although she was encased in layers and layers of peril and trapped inside the Fearless Alliance, she would have a chance to borrow the Fearless Alliance's power to search for Si Yihan, as long as she made the people of the Fearless Alliance completely believe she was Bro Flat Top. Otherwise, searching for a person in the independent state with her own power was akin to looking for a needle in an ocean. Hey, are you okay? Autumn Water's brows furrowed when she saw Big Dipper's odd expression. And nothing. Big Dipper turned around and didn't say anything else. Soon, the long-haired man's gaze landed on Yi Wanwan and he asked, "How do you want to play?" Yi Wanwan returned to her senses upon hearing that. How should she know how to play? Hence she said, "However you like." Deal. The long-haired man didn't waste words and hooked his finger at the dealer. Yi Wanwan stared at the gambling chips in front of the man and counted roughly. These bargaining chips alone were worth at least 10 million, right? What a freaking extravagant gamble. Thankfully, neither Bro Flat Top nor the Fearless Alliance lacked money. Even if she lost, she wouldn't be losing her own money. Yi Wanwan and the long-haired man were the only 2 people sitting at the table right now. 100. After receiving his cards, the long-haired man threw bargaining chips equivalent to 1 million onto the table. Yi Wanwan looked at the cards in her hand. She was calm on the surface, but there was an ongoing war inside her head. She had no freaking idea what these cards meant. Chapter 13:13. Yi Wanwan had no choice but to puff herself up to look impressive. Big Dipper exchanged an equivalent of 3 million in bargaining chips, so she could probably play 2 rounds, but if she lost, call. Yi Wanwan casually threw down 1 million in bargaining chips. It wasn't her money anyway, so she didn't feel any heartache about it. The long-haired man didn't choose to continue and tossed his cards onto the table. Straight flush. Yi Wanwan looked at it. It was 9, 10, J, Q, and K. As for her cards, they were 3, 7, 2, 9, and 5. Your cards? Autumn Water looked at Yi Wanwan with surprise. She had the guts to call at 1 million with these cards? Her biggest card was a mere 9. Even someone with normal card luck could win with closed eyes when faced with Yi Wanwan's cards. You lost. The long-haired man took away Yi Wanwan's 1 million in bargaining chips. What did I do? How did I lose 1 million just like that? Was a casino a freaking suitable place for humans to be in? If this was her own money, she would have gone and jumped off a building already. Yi Wanwan was utterly clueless about this type of gambling, and didn't even understand the cards. How could she continue like this? If this news of incident traveled to 7 Star's ears, "Hey, this type of play is pointless," Yi Wanwan said calmly. "Then how do you want to play?" the long-haired man asked. "If we want to play, then let's add some excitement to it." A smile turned up on Yi Wanwan's lips. "As you wish." The long-haired man was expressionless. "You said it yourself." Yi Wanwan turned to the dealer. "Get a new deck." Yes. The man in a suit specifically told her that this woman was the president of the Fearless Alliance, Bro Flat Top, so how could she dare to refuse? The dealer immediately went to retrieve a new deck of cards. "What would you like to play?" the dealer inquired while looking at Yi Wanwan. How about Fight the Landlord, the 3-person kind?" Yi Wanwan answered. Fight? Fight the Landlord? The dealer was stunned in place. No one had ever played that. What? We can't? Yi Wanwan frowned. You can, of course you can. It's a casino, you can play however you want. The dealer frantically replied. If it's Fight the Landlord, we need at least 4 people, right? The dealer asked cautiously. I want to play with 3 people. Yi Wanwan smiled. Before, she nearly never lost a round of Happily Fight the Landlord on the internet, and lost count of the beans she won. But she didn't know how to play with 4 people, mostly because there were too many cards involved with the 4-person version, and she couldn't hold it all. Autumn Water, come and play. Yuanwan turned to Autumn Water. Xiao Feng, I don't know it. Autumn Water frantically shook her head. Little Big, don't you know 3-person fight the landlord? You play. Autumn Water dragged Big Dipper over. I'm not good at it, not good at it, Big Dipper said with his head lowered. Enough. Sit down and play. Yuanwan looked at Big Dipper. Since Yuanwan had spoken, Big Dipper had to sit down. Big Dipper reflexively looked at the long-haired man, and their eyes met. We seem to have met somewhere before, the long-haired man said after examining Big Dipper for a moment. No. I have a common face. Cold sweat seeped out of Big Dipper's forehead. They exchanged blows 2 years ago, but this guy forgot him now 2 years later. Good riddance. However, why didn't Sis Feng react at all when she saw this person? Perhaps too much time had passed, so these two people didn't recognize each other. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Otherwise, this would have definitely turned into a world war. Soon, the dealer started dealing and each person got 16 cards. Landlord, Yuanwan said. Steal the landlord. Big Dipper saw the cards in his hands and slapped the table excitedly. Yuanwan, Big Dipper, you bastard. You stole my landlord. Chapter 13-14. I also want to be landlord, the long-haired man interjected. Oh, then I don't want it, Yuanwan said. Based on how excited Big Dipper was, he probably had nice cards. Then I also don't want it, Big Dipper also said. Yuanwan. After the long-haired man took the landlord card, he played a 3. Yuanwan immediately played a big joker. Her remaining cards were all a chain. As long as the landlord couldn't play, she would win. I bomb. Big Dipper threw down 4 5s with a bright laugh. Yuanwan. Why the heck are you bombing me? Do you follow? Big Dipper asked. Yuanwan and the long-haired man both shook their heads. I bomb again. Box novel. COM. Big Dipper valiantly threw down 4 2s. Playing fight the landlord with me. Ha ha ha. Big Dipper guffawed and threw down a 5. Then the long-haired man used his little joker to cut him off. Pass, Big Dipper said. Then the long-haired man threw down all his cards. It appears I won, the long-haired man said with a smile. Yuanwan, who had exploded in fury, flipped over the last 2 cards in Big Dipper's hand. A 6 and a 7. Whose team are you on? Yuanwan stared at Big Dipper. Yours, of course, Sis Feng, Big Dipper answered in a matter-of-course tone. If you're on my fucking team, why the heck are you bombing me? Yuanwan nearly threw her cards at Big Dipper's face. As if it weren't enough that he bombed her twice, he bombed her twice in a row and ended up letting the landlord win. If Yuanwan had an axe in her hand, perhaps she would have hacked Big Dipper in half already. Sis Feng. I had a bomb, so of course I used it. Look at how many cards I played while you only played 1 card, yet you blame me. Big Dipper looked at Yuanwan with complaints. Do you want to scram yourself? Or do you want me to kick you out? Yuanwan asked Big Dipper. Sis Feng. Give me another chance. I haven't played it for a while, so I'm a bit out of practice. I'll definitely carefully think about it next round and play well. Big Dipper laughed in embarrassment. Deal. Yuanwan snapped brusquely. The dealer cursorily glanced at Big Dipper. With his input, this fight the landlord. Box novel. COM. I don't bid for landlord, Big Dipper said as he looked at the cards in his hand. I also don't, the long-haired man said. Since they both don't want it, their cards must be bad. Yuanwan was pensive. I bid for landlord. She took the landlord card. Although her hand wasn't wonderful, it was still decent. Yuanwan first tossed out her only single card, a 3. I bomb. Big Dipper threw down 4 queens with a bright laugh. Yuanwan ferociously glared at Big Dipper. Pass. I bomb again. Big Dipper threw down both the small and big joker. Yuanwan's lips twitched. I merely played a 3, yet you used 2 hands to bomb me. Pass. Show me how many bombs you have. Bomb me again if you dare, Yuanwan said with a dry smile as she looked at Big Dipper. No more bombs. Big Dipper shook his head before throwing down all the cards in his hand. They were all a chain. Big Dipper, didn't you freaking have a bad hand? Why in the world didn't you bid for landlord with such a good hand? You chose to dig a hole for me instead. Sis Feng, I said earlier that I would definitely think carefully and play well if you gave me a chance. How about it? I'm quite good, right? Ha ha ha. Big Dipper guffawed uncontrollably. Scram. Yuanwan looked at Big Dipper. Before Big Dipper could say anything, Yuanwan coldly smiled and said, "If you don't scram, I'm going to beat you to death." Chapter 13:15. 13:15 Big Dipper chuckled in embarrassment. You play? You play. I suddenly remember that I have something to do, so I'll go now. Soon Big Dipper stood up and escaped from the casino, taking Autumn Water with him. Big Dipper had no doubt that Yuanwan would really beat him to death. Since there's no one else to play with, let's play another day, the long-haired man said to Yuanwan. No, Yuanwan blocked the long-haired man's side. Let's play two-person Fight the Landlord. He'd never heard of a two-person version of Fight the Landlord. No one ever had the guts to tell me no in the independent state. The long-haired man narrowed his eyes and stared at Yuanwan. Before Yuanwan could answer, a group of men in black suddenly rushed into the casino. After entering the casino, one of the men in black swept over the people before settling on table 4, which Yuanwan was sitting at. Don't panic, everyone. We have some personal conflicts with table 4, the man in black said with a snort. All the guests in the casino seemed to be used to this type of situation, and didn't show any panic. Looking for table 4? Yuanwan frowned slightly. Was this group looking for her, or the long-haired man who won money from her? President, you're quite mighty today. An elderly man from the group looked at Yuanwan, his lips turning up into a bone-chilling smile. Yuanwan's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. These people were looking for her. Yuanwan wasn't dumb and instantly understood the overall situation. These people were probably Third Elder's subordinates. Just how much power did those old geezers have in the Fearless Alliance? They might not believe she was the president of the Fearless Alliance, but she still bore the president's identity right now. Kill. Don't spare a single person at table 4. Dozens of people surrounded table 4 following the elderly man's orders. Wait. Yuanwan gathered her thoughts and said, I don't know this person. He's innocent, so let him leave. The long-haired man looked at Yuanwan, his eyes glinting. How strange. This was the first time in his life that someone was protecting him. It wasn't until Yuanwan spoke that the elderly man turned to look at the long-haired man. This look caused the elderly man to tremble fiercely. Peace. Peace. Piece of shit. The elderly man blurted out with an astonished expression. What did you call me? The long-haired man's bone-chilling voice resounded. Somehow, he took a mere step and disappeared from his spot, reappearing beside the elderly man. Peace. Piece of shit. The elderly man automatically repeated. The long-haired man's eyes glinted coldly, and he raised his right arm. Then his finger poked the elderly man's temples at a speed that couldn't be caught by the human eye. In front of everyone, a loud bang was heard, and the elderly man flew back a dozen or so meters like a snipped kite. When he landed, he shattered the nearby gambling tables and died miserably on the spot. What I hate the most is people calling me piece of shit. A terrifying viciousness surfaced in the long-haired man's eyes. Yuanwan was absolutely dumbfounded. This good-looking man was actually piece of shit. Bro Flat Top's mortal enemy. That extremely savage big boss. Author's little drama. 1 day after Ninth Master went offline, miss him. 2 days after Ninth Master went offline, miss him. 3 days after Ninth Master went offline, miss him. 4 days after Ninth Master went offline. Emperor G is so handsome. 5 days after Ninth Master went offline. I fell in love with piece of shit. Ninth Master. What happened to being a true fan? Pacifying Wanwan went online. I've seen the galaxy, but you're the only star I love. The audience. It's been a long time since we've felt so stuffed. Chapter 13:16. 13:16 Piece of shit. No one knew his origin or his background. All they knew was that his strength allowed him to run wild without any scruples in the independent state. Some even claimed he was unrivaled. Very few people knew what piece of shit looked like. But since Bro Flat Top constantly wanted to take revenge against piece of shit, The Fearless Alliance was no stranger to piece of shit. After the elderly man was killed by piece of shit by a mere finger, the people he brought all kept quiet out of fear. Even their breathing slowed down. Who would have expected the president of the Fearless Alliance to be with piece of shit? These two people were at odds. Leave. Leave quickly. One of the men was already drenched in sweat as he looked at piece of shit standing next to Yuan. He had to hurry and report back to Elder about the president being with piece of shit. Did I say you could leave? The long-haired man's bone-chilling gaze swept over everyone. No one dared to move a single centimeter upon hearing that. Lord shit. Lord shit. This is all a misunderstanding. Sweat endlessly flowed down the leading man's forehead as he looked at piece of shit. What did you call me? Piece of shit asked dryly. No. Lord. You're my lord. The leading man wanted nothing more than to cry. How would he know piece of shit's actual name? Didn't everyone in the independent state call him piece of shit? You're from the Fearless Alliance, the long-haired man stated. The leading man looked reflexively at Yuan. They were indeed from the Fearless Alliance, but they came to secretly kill the president today, so their identity absolutely couldn't be revealed. However, they didn't dare to lie to piece of shit, or else they might not be able to leave the casino alive tonight. Why yes. The man had no choice but to admit the truth between clenched teeth under the towering might of piece of shit's aura. The long-haired man glanced at Yuan next to him nonchalantly when he heard that. Get lost, the long-haired man said indifferently. The people from the Fearless Alliance all acted like they were pardoned upon hearing that, and rushed out of the casino all at once. The long-haired man's gaze landed on Yuan. Yuan's heart shuddered when she felt piece of shit's gaze. Bro flat top. Were we enemies in our previous lives? What kind of beast did you offend? They're from the Fearless Alliance, the long-haired man remarked. I think so, yeah. Yuan smiled with embarrassment. If I recall correctly, they called you president just now. The long-haired man looked pensive. It's Door Master 1. Yuan hastily explained. You mustn't misunderstand. I sell doors and have a rather nice business. So I have the nickname Doormaster. You sell doors? The long-haired man was briefly startled. That's right. I sell doors. Iron doors, wooden doors, glass doors. I sell all kinds of doors. Yuan nodded frantically. Lord shit, can I leave? Yuan smiled fawningly. This man in front of her was seriously the most terrifying boss in the independent state. He sent Bro Flat Top, at her peak, sprawling to the ground with one move and nearly eradicated an ancient recluse clan all by himself. Just how arrogant was Bro Flat Top back then that she'd casually provoke such a terrifying boss? Rumors said Bro Flat Top invited piece of shit to a fair fight back then, but secretly ordered a lot of experts from the Fearless Alliance to lie in wait. After being defeated overwhelmingly, she ordered all the experts to appear and attack piece of shit from all sides. However, all those experts from the Fearless Alliance were ferociously beaten by piece of shit in the end. The number of casualties and mortalities was high. Chapter 13-17. Yuan wanted nothing more than to be as far away from this good-looking, long-haired man as possible. You truly aren't the Fearless Alliance's president? Piece of shit stared at Yuan. Yuan, Knight Errant, can we switch the topic? I'm really just a door seller. Knight Errant, think if I was really the president of the Fearless Alliance, why would people from the Fearless Alliance want to kill me? Yuan reasoned. The long-haired man nodded. There was some reasoning behind those words. The members of the Fearless Alliance had always been loyal toward their president. What's your name? The long-haired man asked. I'm Yuan. Yuan answered honestly. Ishuehan. The long-haired man turned around to leave. Box novel. Com. Farewell, Knight Errant Han. Remember to look for me if you need a door for your home. Yuan finally relaxed after sending Ishuehan off with her eyes. It turned out piece of shit's name was Ishuehan. This name was rather poetic. Shortly after, Yuan also left the casino and returned to the mansion by herself. Tonight's events poured a cold bucket of water over Yuan and made her start to see the Fearless Alliance's real situation for what it was. Third Elder's illegitimate son provoked her, and was thrown off the 4th floor by Big Dipper. Soon after, she was hunted down by the Fearless Alliance. It didn't require much thought for her to link this hunt with Third Elder. The internal management of the Fearless Alliance wasn't as easy to handle as she imagined. 7-star was merely a beginner stage hurdle for her. The true headache-inducing hurdles were those powerful old geezers within the Fearless Alliance. If she couldn't solidify her position as the president of the Fearless Alliance, she would probably die a very tragic death. Yi-Wan didn't have a second path to traverse anymore. It wasn't realistic for her to find Si Yihan in the independent state by herself, but it shouldn't be overly difficult if she could borrow the Fearless Alliance's power to search for him. However, currently speaking, she couldn't mobilize the core power of the Fearless Alliance, so her only option was to cement her position as the president of the Fearless Alliance. Otherwise, everything else would be idle talk. Si Yihan, Yi-Wan murmured. The next day, Yi-Wan arrived at the Fearless Alliance's headquarters early in the morning. Sisfeng about last night. Box novel. Com. Big Dipper entered Yi-Wan's office with a serious expression. It wasn't that he didn't know how to play fight the landlord, but he really didn't dare to win piece of shit's money. Big Dipper originally wanted to explain, but he was interrupted by Yi-Wan. She said with a cold expression, "Help me call those elders here." Ah. Big Dipper was taken back. How could he possibly invite those old geezers here successfully? "Tell them I need them for something," Yi-Wan added before Big Dipper could say anything else. Sure, I'll go and try." Big Dipper nodded and left. However, Big Dipper soon re-entered seconds after he left the office. "Sisfeng, it looks like I don't need to go invite them. They came themselves." A dozen or so elderly men slowly entered Yi-Wan's office, just as Big Dipper finished speaking. Yi-Wan frowned as she looked at those elderly men. She didn't recognize a single one. Just who was Third Elder? Yi-Wan picked up a document from the desk and pretended to examine it. Without looking up, she asked with a snort, "Third Elder, have you been well lately?" An elderly man in a black suit with a head of white hair walked up and looked at Yi-Wan. He chuckled and said, "Thank you for your concern, President. I've been fine lately." Chapter 1318. 1318. Yi-Wan looked up at the elderly man. So this was the Third Elder of the Fearless Alliance. He looked rather friendly and kind. "May I ask why everyone took the initiative to seek me out today?" Yi-Wan asked with a snort. "We knew the president returned some time ago, but there were urgent matters that required our attention within the alliance, so we couldn't come to pay the president a visit. We were finally free today, so we specifically came to seek forgiveness." It was another elderly man, who was fairly getting on in years, who replied indifferently. He might look calm and peaceful on the surface, but Yi-Wan knew she couldn't yield a single step in her aura today. Otherwise, her future wouldn't be easy to traverse even if she was the real president, let alone a fake. She might even get killed without knowing how it happened. Is that so? A wicked and bewitching smile turned up on Yi-Wan's lips. Big Dipper and the others stood a little distance away, but didn't say anything. Meanwhile, 7-star was constantly observing Yi-Wan's speech and actions, as though he wanted to find a hole in them. "President, I'd like to ask where you've been all these years?" Third Elder suddenly asked Yi-Wan. What great concern you have for me, Third Elder." Yi-Wan chuckled. "Of course. You're the president of the Fearless Alliance," Third Elder began. However, Yi-Wan's expression abruptly shifted before Third Elder could finish speaking. Yi-Wan stood up and picked up a stack of documents from her desk before harshly flinging them at Third Elder's face. "Old thing, do you want to die?" Yi-Wan shouted frostily. Yi-Wan's abrupt change came completely unexpected to everyone present. When Autumn Water and Big Dipper saw Yi-Wan's actions, they froze on the spot involuntarily, and astonishment flickered through Big Dipper's eyes. Currently, the majority of the Fearless Alliance's power was controlled by those old geezers. Since Yi-Wan did that, did she really want to shred all pretenses with those old geezers? "President, what are you doing?" Third Elder's eyes glinted icily as he looked at Yi-Wan. The flickering murderous intent in Third Elder's eyes made Yi Wanwan feel somewhat apprehensive, but her expression became more bone-chilling. It appears you've gotten more ballsy in the years I was gone. Yi Wanwan smiled frostily. Humph. What do you mean, President? Third Elder questioned her coldly. Don't you know what that illegitimate son of yours did last night? Yi Wanwan asked. Third Elder waved his hand. President, you can eat things carelessly, but you can't say things carelessly. I don't have any illegitimate children. Is that so? Yi Wanwan nodded. Big Dipper, bring him inside. Okay. Big Dipper left the office. Last night, Big Dipper got a phone call from Yi Wanwan and secretly abducted Li Machin from the hospital. He didn't know Yi Wanwan's intentions, but he did it successfully. Soon, 2 members loyal to the president entered the office behind Big Dipper, while carrying a stretcher. It was Third Elder Li Si's illegitimate son, Li Machin, laying on the stretcher. When Third Elder saw the thoroughly bandaged Li Machin, his eyes shifted. Li Si, since you don't have an illegitimate son, do you recognize this person? Yi Wanwan snorted. Chapter 1319 I don't. Li Si declared impatiently. Oh. You really don't recognize him, Third Elder? Yi Wanwan looked very surprised. What a load of bullshit. Who didn't know Li Machin was Li Si's illegitimate son? Now, who was the one who shoved away all responsibility and wouldn't even acknowledge his own son? President, I said I don't recognize him, so I don't. Li Si then turned to the 2 Fearless Alliance members holding the stretcher. Where did this person come from? Look at how seriously injured he is. Hurry and take him to the hospital. Don't let him die here. It's unlucky. The 2 Fearless Alliance members were hesitant. President didn't tell them to leave. Hold on. Yi Wanwan smiled aloofly. This person offended Autumn Water and me yesterday and spoke to me rudely. President, you just returned, so some blind people will definitely offend you. I say, President, anyone can make mistakes. You should forgive them when possible. How about it, President? Third Elder said meaningfully as he looked at Yi Wanwan. Anyone can make mistakes, so forgive them when possible? An icy smile spread across Yi Wanwan's face. I've never understood that saying in my entire life. Yi Wanwan turned to Big Dipper before Third Elder could say anything else. Big Dipper, how were these matters handled in the past? People who insulted the president of the Fearless Alliance got their clan exterminated. People who disrespected the president of the Fearless Alliance were killed. Big Dipper enunciated each word vigorously. Great. Did you hear that, Li Si? Yi Wanwan turned to Third Elder. May I ask how you'll punish this person then, President? Li Si didn't seem to cower from Yi Wanwan's icy gaze at all. Kill him, of course, Yi Wanwan said. Third Elder's face darkened. Of course, if Third Elder admits he's your son, perhaps I can spare him and forget about this matter, Yi Wanwan added. Li Si's face turned extremely dark upon hearing that. Even if everyone knew Li Machin was his son, it'd be fine as long as he didn't admit it himself. If he admitted it, he'd have to take full responsibility of his son's crime of provoking the president of the Fearless Alliance. President, you must be joking. How could this little bastard be my son? Li Si said. Good, wonderful. Since he's not your son, then I have no choice but to kill him. Otherwise, what would it do to my reputation as the president of the Fearless Alliance? Yi Wanwan said coldly. The old geezer, Third Elder Li Si, was as troublesome as expected. As long as he admitted Li Machin was his son, then Yi Wanwan would have a way to stamp a crime onto him. Big Dipper, I'll leave him to you. Torture him slowly, Yi Wanwan said with a chuckle. President, don't worry, leave it to me. I'll guarantee that little bastard has a fate more miserable and torturous than Azura's hell. Big Dipper nodded. Scoundrel. Suddenly, Third Elder Li Si angrily shouted. This bastard has the guts to look down on our president. I'll take care of it for you, President. Third Elder looked at the unconscious Li Machin on the stretcher. Before Yi Wanwan could react, he lifted his palm and mercilessly chopped it at Li Machin's head like a blade. Within seconds, the sound of bones cracking was heard, and Yi Wanwan saw blood flowing out of Li Machin's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, creating a tragic scene. Third Elder Li Si's attack exceeded Yi Wanwan's expectations. Who would have expected Third Elder Li Si to kill his own son with a hit? Yi Wanwan originally only wanted to find Third Elder's weakness and make him admit Li Machin was his son, so she could stamp the crime of treason onto Third Elder's head and use this opportunity to kick him out of the Fearless Alliance. She never would have expected Third Elder to be so excessively vicious. People said even a monster wouldn't hurt its own children, but Third Elder. Only then did Yi Wanwan realize how frightening her situation and the people she faced were. Chapter 13:20. Only then did Yi Wanwan realize how frightening her situation and the people she faced were. Even if she was the president of the Fearless Alliance, she would crash and burn with the slightest careless mistake without leaving a strand of hair behind. Li Si, what a heartless move, Yi Wanwan said. Third Elder's eyes coldly glinted, but he smiled amiably. President, I don't quite understand what you mean. That little bastard is unrelated to me, and he offended the president, so it wouldn't be excessive even if I shredded him to pieces. How am I heartless? The other elderly men all looked at each other and saw the derision in each other's eyes. Li Si had an abundance of children, so a mere illegitimate son was nothing. However, they didn't expect the president to act just the same as before after being missing for so many years. There's also one more thing. Yi Wanwan's gaze swept over the room. A dozen or so people wanted to kill me last night at the casino. What? That happened? Big Dipper and Autumn Water were shocked. They were also at the casino last night, but they left early so they weren't aware of the later events. You know who wanted to kill me? Yi Wanwan chuckled. People from the Fearless Alliance. What? Quite a few members of the Fearless Alliance were shocked when they heard that. People from the Fearless Alliance wanted to kill the president of the Fearless Alliance. Big Dipper, Autumn Water, and their group's gaze reflexively turned to the elders, especially Third Elder Li Si. Hey, President, who would be so foolish to want to kill you with your strength? An elderly man in a red suit asked with a chuckle. Second Elder is right. Third Elder Li Si nodded. Yi Wanwan didn't say anything but sneered inwardly. Those people might have wanted to kill her last night, but testing whether she was the true president of the Fearless Alliance was probably another objective. If she was fake, she might have been killed on the spot. If she was real, then those old geezers, especially Third Elder Li Si, would probably switch their method in dealing with her. However, they most likely didn't expect to coincidentally run into piece of shit at the casino last night and offend that frightening top-tier boss. Big Dipper, Autumn Water, investigate this matter clearly and find the mastermind even if you have to turn the independent state upside down, Yi Wanwan said. President, don't worry. Big Dipper and Autumn Water replied simultaneously. All right, President, let's talk business, Second Elder told Yi Wanwan in his red suit. Speak, Yi Wanwan said calmly while leaning back in her chair. It's about the Yen family in Yin City's northern region, Second Elder said slowly. Big Dipper and Autumn Water's expressions became serious at the mention of the Yen family. The Yen family was a deeply rooted martial patrician family in the northern region of Yin City. They engaged in quite a few battles with the Fearless Alliance in recent years, and the Fearless Alliance was unsuccessful in their various attempts to exterminate the Yen family. Later, the Yen family retaliated and wiped out several branches of the Fearless Alliance, and successfully caused a few traitorous branch members to become loyal to the Yen family. Recently, the Yen family reached a series of partnerships with all the major mercenary guilds and the Mercenary Academy, dealing a big blow to the Fearless Alliance. Chapter 13:21. 13:21. Yi Wanwan was pensive after learning about the matter. This type of situation crossed the Fearless Alliance's bottom line completely. Not only did they steal the Fearless Alliance's business, but they also caused branches of the Fearless Alliance to become turncoats. You need me to teach you how to handle this type of problem? Yi Wanwan coldly questioned Second Elder. Hey, President, if this was the past, we truly wouldn't need to worry about a mere Yen family. Ever since you left though, the Fearless Alliance hasn't been as strong as in the past, and the Yen family hasn't been weak. In fact, They even became stronger in recent years. I'm afraid they're going to be troublesome, second elder replied. 7-star, what are your thoughts? Yuanwan turned to 7-star. Whatever president decides is fine, 7-star answered aloofly. Yuanwan, what use do I have for you? What about you, Big Dipper? Yuanwan looked at Big Dipper. President, the Yen family has provoked the Fearless Alliance numerous times. It could be ignored if you weren't here like before, but since you've returned, President, provoking the Fearless Alliance is the same as provoking the president. If this subordinate has a say. A cold glint flashed in Big Dipper's eyes, and he made a swiping gesture across his neck. Kill without any survivors. Even Big Dipper knows what to do, but you don't. What use are you as an elder? Yuanwan snorted as she looked at second elder. President's right, we've become muddle-headed. Second elder chuckled lightly. How was the Yen family easy to handle? Since the president wanted to go that route, then great. If any incidents came up in the battle against the Yen family, she'd have to take responsibility as the Fearless Alliance's president. At the same time, in Emperor Ji's place in Yun City, the main hall appeared a bit eerie. It was pitch dark everywhere and didn't have a single ray of light like a moonless night. Do you know who I am? Did you eat a leopard's gall? You dared to abduct me. Angry shouting was heard inside the main hall. Light rushed into the hall, and now it was like the sun had risen in the main hall. Seemingly reflexively looked at his surroundings and was startled. A man stood in front of the main hall with a harmless and innocent smile hanging from his lips, and a parade of people stood around him. Where am I? Seemingly felt nervous for some reason. He was quietly abducted to this place without any notice from the sea residents. The independent state. An elderly man answered coldly. The independent state. Impossible. Seemingly was overwhelmed with shock and disbelief upon learning of his current whereabouts. Although he had never been to the independent state, how could he be ignorant about this place? It was the holy land for martial arts. The four great clans, the Emperor of Underground Europe, the Martial Arts Union, the legendary Mercenary Academy, they were all here. Why aren't you kneeling upon seeing Emperor Ji? A young man reprimanded him harshly. Emperor, what did you say? Emperor Ji. Seemingly's expression changed drastically. The man sitting in front of the main hall was the renowned Emperor Ji, who controlled the entire underground empire of Europe? Emperor Ji, I looked into it and this person has a feud with Miss Worryless. He once hired hitmen to kill Miss Worryless but didn't succeed. The young man, Duan Fei, said. Oh. The smile on Ji Xiran's face deepened upon hearing that. I also brought back a person named Luiying, a white tiger, and 5 mercenaries. They're all related to Miss Worryless, Duan Fei said. A white tiger? Emperor Ji was startled. Chapter 1322? A tiger. It's a real tiger. Those 5 mercenaries said it's Miss Worryless' pet in China. Duan Fei frantically nodded. Ji Xiran didn't say anything else, and merely hooked his finger toward Seemingly. Upon seeing that, Seemingly shakily walked to the front of the main hall. Seemingly had no idea what happened, and didn't have a clue as to why the renowned Emperor Ji abducted him to this place. I heard you once sent people to kill Worryless, Ji Xiran said with a light chuckle when Seemingly got closer. Huh? Worryless? Seemingly was startled and looked confused. Who's Worryless? I don't know that person at all. When did I ever send someone to kill someone named Worryless? Seemingly wasn't lying. He really didn't know the Worryless that Ji Xiran spoke of. You don't know? Ji Xiran nodded with a chuckle. She has another name. It's Yuanwan. Yuanwan. Seemingly was absolutely shocked. How was Yuanwan related to Emperor Ji of the independent state? They had nothing to do with each other. Emperor Ji, you and Yuanwan are? Seemingly asked warily. She's my younger sister. The smile in Emperor Ji's eyes suddenly turned to ice, and before Seemingly could react, he latched Seemingly by his throat. The sound of bones cracking resounded, and Seemingly's neck was crushed by Emperor Ji within seconds. Bang! Emperor Ji raised his right arm and casually tossed Seemingly's corpse aside. He said faintly, Duanfei, bring them all here. Yes. Duanfei nodded and left. A moment later, the 5-member mercenary group and a young man was brought to the main hall. If Yi Wanwan was here, she would recognize that the young man was the ex-captain of the Xi family's hidden guards, Lu Ying. Who are you? Lu Ying's eyes were calm as he swept over the gathered people and questioned coldly. You don't need to know that much. You just need to honestly answer everything we ask. A middle-aged man situated beneath Emperor Ji coldly said as he looked at Lu Ying. You're asking for it. Lu Ying became furious. He lifted his right arm and opened his hand, trying to grab the middle-aged man who spoke. The middle-aged man snorted and attacked with his elbow. Before Lu Ying could approach him, his elbow fiercely slammed into Lu Ying's abdomen. Lu Ying collapsed onto the ground weakly in the next second. What's the situation between Yi Wanwan and the previous patriarch of the Xi family? The middle-aged man asked while staring at Lu Ying. I don't know. Lu Ying replied. You don't know? How could you not know as the previous captain of the Xi family's hidden guards? The middle-aged man's eyes sparkled frostily. Enough nonsense. I don't know anything. Lu Ying sneered. What a backbone you have. Even if you won't tell me, someone else will tell me. The middle-aged man's eyes landed on the 5-member group before looking away. Emperor Ji, it's useless to keep this person. Let's kill him. The middle-aged man turned to Emperor Ji. However, Emperor Ji chuckled and said, No need. Emperor Ji already made his decision, so the middle-aged man didn't say anything else naturally and turned to the 5-member mercenary group instead. Little Lolita shuddered from his attentive gaze. Emperor Ji, the ruler of Europe's underground empire, a tyrant who was worthy of his title. Chapter 1323. Although little Lolita had never seen Emperor Ji, she wasn't a stranger to Emperor Ji's name. Hello, Emperor Ji. Little Lolita greeted him of her own accord before Emperor Ji said anything. Emperor Ji nodded and asked, Who's your master? Our master. Little Lolita secretly peered at Emperor Ji and thought for a moment before answering honestly. Our master is the Rose of Death. The crowd in the main hall smiled upon hearing little Lolita's words. How could the Rose of Death exist? Rose of Death is it? Emperor Ji's lips turned up with a smile akin to the spring breeze. It appeared worryless lived vibrantly after disappearing, and even pretended to be the Rose of Death while in China. May I ask Emperor Ji, what is your relationship with my master? Little Lolita cautiously looked at Emperor Ji. /BOXNOVEL. When Yi Wanwan was still in China, she told the 5-member mercenary group that she would head to the independent state, so the group knew she was currently in the independent state. Your master is Emperor Ji's fiancé, Duanfei suddenly interjected. What, fiancé? Shit, seriously. Our master is truly worthy of being our master. She managed to seduce Emperor Ji, and even had an engagement with him. Instantly, the expressions of little Lolita and everyone in her group shifted. However, Bearded Man was astonished. Wait, isn't our master with the patriarch of the Xi family in China? Bearded Man only got some words out before he received a harsh glare from little Lolita. With that glare, Bearded Man reacted immediately and shut his mouth. Their master actually found a male lover in China and cuckolded Emperor Ji. Damn, how could they possibly allow Emperor Ji to find out? How was your master's life in China? Emperor Ji asked. Good, great, wonderful. She was free and cheerful. Heidi hastily replied. Emperor Ji nodded and looked over the 5-member mercenary group. Since you're here, you can stay in the independent state. Your master is currently in the independent state's Fearless Alliance. Go find her. Fearless Alliance. The 5-member mercenary group's expression abruptly changed at the mention of the Fearless Alliance. What kind of insane joke was this? Just how vicious was the Fearless Alliance? And he wanted them to go to the Fearless Alliance to find Master. However, since Emperor Ji said that, Yi Wanwan was most probably in the Fearless Alliance. They were basically abducted, and it was harder to return home than ascending to heaven, so they could only do as Emperor Ji said, and try their luck to look for Master. Emperor Ji, we'll take our leave now? Little Lolita asked warily. Take him with you. Emperor Ji pointed at Lu Ying inside the main hall. Yes, yes, yes. Heidi immediately grabbed Lu Ying's arm and dragged him out of the main hall. After the 5-member mercenary group and Lu Ying left, Duan Fei went up and asked lightly, Emperor Ji, what are you thinking? Now that Miss Worryless lost her memory, it's very dangerous for her to remain in the Fearless Alliance. Why don't you inform the Nie family? Emperor Ji chuckled and pointedly said, perhaps it'd be more dangerous for her to return to the Nie family. She must progress whether she can recover her memory or not. Although it's dangerous for her to stay with the Fearless Alliance, it might help her recover her memory. Moreover, I'm the only one in the world who knows about Worryless' identity as the president of the Fearless Alliance, by phone. /BOXNOVEL. I promised her I wouldn't tell anyone. Wouldn't I break my oath to Worryless if I informed the Nie family? Also, the Fearless Alliance belonged to her to begin with, Emperor Ji added. Duan Fei was contemplative. That's true. The relationship between the 4 great clans is ambiguous right now, and you represent the Ji family, Emperor Ji, so it's better if you don't interfere with the Nie family's business. Also, you allowed those 5 people to leave so that they could help Miss Worryless, right, Emperor Ji? That's right. Emperor Ji nodded. There are many covetous onlookers around her, so she needs her own people beside her. Oh right, Emperor Ji. I looked into it and discovered that Miss Worryless seems to have had a romantic relationship with the patriarch of the Xi family in China these past years. However, the Xi patriarch disappeared. Miss Worryless most likely came to the independent state to look for him. A cold glint flashed through Ji Xiran's eyes. Name, Xi Yihan, Duan Fei answered. Chapter 1324. 1324 Xi Yihan. Ji Xiran murmured thoughtfully. Ji Xiran wasn't familiar with Xi Yihan's name, but the surname Xi. Is there someone from the Xi family named Xi Yihan? Ji Xiran asked Duan Fei. Duan Fei was startled and asked with surprise. Emperor Ji, they merely have the same surname. There are quite a few people with the surname Xi in China, so he shouldn't be related to the Xi clan. Ji Xiran wanted to say something else when an elderly man approached and told him, Emperor Ji, Nameless Nie is here. Oh, he's rather free today. Ji Xiran smiled. A second later, Nameless Nie spiritedly entered the main hall like a ball of fire. Brother Nie seems to be rather free today. Why are you here? Ji Xiran asked Nameless Nie with a light chuckle. Brother-in-law, what do you mean? I've been back for so long, but you didn't come and find me, so it had to be me who came to see you. Nameless Nie said matter-of-factly. Why did Brother Nie come here today? Ji Xiran sat down and took a sip of tea. Say, brother-in-law, Worryless has been found already, so why haven't you done anything yet? You don't plan on marrying my sister? I'll kill you. Nameless Nie threatened as he looked at Ji Xiran. Oh, Ji Xiran chuckled. Is Brother Nie certain the Worryless Nie in the Nie family is the real one? What do you mean? Ahem, I suspected she was a fake a long time ago. She was missing for so many years and came back with a different personality, but I wasn't able to find any evidence. Do you have news? Nameless Nie asked urgently. Ji Xiran pondered over it for a moment before shaking his head. How could I have any ideas if you, her real brother, are clueless yourself? Duan Fei covertly peeked at Nameless Nie and thought, this real brother is really unreliable. If Emperor Ji told him the truth, the real second miss of the Nie family would probably be in more danger. Oh right, did you hear about how piece of shit was seen in the independent state recently? Nameless Nie inquired. I heard about it, Ji Xiran answered. Brother-in-law, can you help me find piece of shit? I want to fight him. Nameless Nie requested with a cold smile. Brother Nie, how about you find him yourself? I'd rather not provoke him. Ji Xiran replied lightly. You don't think I can beat him? Nameless Nie frowned. Before Ji Xiran could reply, Nameless Nie continued. Oh right. Recently, Azura revived. Azura, huh? Ji Xiran's expression became serious at the mention of Azura, and he fell into contemplation. Azura incited countless bloodshed in the independent state back then. Its power was once equal to that of the Martial Arts Union. Moreover, when the Martial Arts Union targeted and tried to suppress them, Azura swiftly retaliated and successfully clipped the Martial Arts Union's wings. Unfortunately, Azura established too many enemies in the independent state and offended many other factions besides the Martial Arts Union. Many years ago, Azura was besieged by all the major factions, and the Fearless Alliance was at the forefront of these factions. After Azura's battle with the major factions, the mysterious Lord Azura disappeared, and the terrifying power, Azura, also vanished with Lord Azura's disappearance. I heard that Lord Azura might be back, Nameless Nya said. Chapter 1325 Lord Azura, is it? Emperor Ji smiled. I'd like to meet him if the opportunity arises. Sweat seeped out of Duan Fei's forehead. The Azura faction created great trauma for the independent state. If it weren't for Lord Azura's disappearance back then, the independent state would now be punctured with holes and bleeding everywhere already. If Lord Azura returned, the first to act would probably be the Fearless Alliance. The Fearless Alliance was the spearhead of the campaign with the other major factions of the independent state to eradicate Azura back then, so they had a great feud. If Azura's two greatest enemies were to be named, the first would be the Martial Arts Union, and the second one would be the Fearless Alliance without fail. At the headquarters of the Fearless Alliance, Big Dipper looked like he was sitting on ants inside Yi Wanwan's office. What should we do? Big Dipper had paced dozens of times in front of Yi Wanwan already. Was your mom hit by a car again? Yi Wanwan peered at Big Dipper from the corner of her eyes. Big Dipper was startled briefly before becoming embarrassed. He didn't think Sis Feng would remember that still. Sis Feng, my mom didn't get hit by a car. Something major happened. Big Dipper sat down next to Yi Wanwan and asked with a mysterious expression, Sis Feng, could it be, you forgot about Azura? Azura? Yi Wanwan was pensive when she heard that. After coming to the independent state, Yi Wanwan made sure she learned about the recent history of the independent state, especially since she was pretending to be the president of the Fearless Alliance. She knew a little bit about Azura. Rumors said Azura was the only faction that dared to clash with the Martial Arts Union in the independent state back then. Rumors also said Lord Azura was bloodthirsty and brutal, the most infamous super tyrant in the independent state. Unfortunately, no one knew Lord Azura's true appearance and name even now. As time passed, Lord Azura became the irreplaceable symbol of cruelty. Hasn't Azura disappeared for many years? Yi Wanwan turned to Big Dipper. That's right, they disappeared for many years. Big Dipper nodded repeatedly. However, Azura recently revived from the ashes. Rumors say Lord Azura has returned. So what if he's returned? Yi Wanwan said indifferently. Big Dipper gave Yi Wanwan a thumbs up immediately. Great! You're truly my Sis Feng indeed. Incomparably brave and truly a phoenix amongst humans. Speak human. Sis Feng, our Fearless Alliance participated in the plan to eradicate Azura back then. You were the most enthusiastic. Now that Lord Azura's returned, the first one he wants to kill is probably you. But Sis Feng is fearless. I admire you. Big Dipper looked reverent. Yi Wanwan, WTF? The Fearless Alliance actually participated in the plan to eradicate Azura, and Bro Flattop actually offended Lord Azura. She courted great disaster. As if piece of shit wasn't enough, now there was Lord Azura too. Would she find out that the president of the Martial Arts Union was also offended by Bro Flattop in a few days? Sis Feng, speaking of which, you've wreaked havoc on the four great clans of the independent state. The Nye, Ji, Ling and Shun family too, but the four great clans think we're scum, so they're unwilling to provoke us. Lord Azura though, he's the most renowned brutal tyrant in the independent state. I'm afraid this time. Big Dipper said apprehensively. You useless thing. Even I'm not afraid of a mere Lord Azura. What are you afraid for? Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. Damn. My guess was right. The four great clans were all once offended by Bro Flattop. Sis Feng, I admire you the most in my life. You fought the Nye family's mercenaries, eliminated the Ji family's branches, stolen the Shun family's money. Big Dipper listed Bro Flat Top's feats cheerfully. Yuan. Chapter 1326. Yuan could understand destroying a branch and fighting mercenaries, but what in the world was up with stealing the Shin family's money? However, Bro Flat Top's modus operandi did match the overall style of the Fearless Alliance. Didn't the Fearless Alliance want to exterminate the Zhou family and steal their territory? Sis Feng, with Lord Azura's personality, he probably looks down on small fry like us and will probably target you first, Big Dipper told Yuan. Yuan. What kind of sin did she commit? She just wanted to live a stable life and use the Fearless Alliance's power to look for Si Yihan. Look at me now. I have piece of shit on the left, Emperor Ji on the right, and now there's some nuisance called Lord Azura. Who'll save me? I'm here, don't panic. You're also a middle senior manager of the Fearless Alliance. It's improper for you to panic like this. Yuan coldly glanced at Big Dipper. If worse came to worst, she'd flee at that time. Sis Feng is right. Big Dipper nodded vehemently. Before Yuan could say anything else, a knock resounded on the office door. Enter. Yuan called. Sis Feng. 7-Star looked at Yuan. What is it? Yuan asked. I transported Virus back, 7-Star said as he watched Yuan. Virus? Yuan was startled. What the heck was Virus? An ominous feeling rose in Yuan's heart. This was probably another test from 7-Star. However, what caused Yuan's head to pound harder was that she had no idea what Virus was. Oh, Virus is back. Big Dipper was surprised and turned to Yuan. Sis Feng, 7-Star is too considerate. Virus is the pet you adopted before you left back then. I remember how much Sis Feng loved him. 7-Star's icy gaze landed on Big Dipper. Yuan's lips turned up. 7-Star, take me to Virus. Okay. 7-Star turned and left. Yuan and Big Dipper followed behind 7-Star. Unease plagued Yuan's mind. What kind of pet did Bro Flat Top raise? If it was a cat or dog, all was well. But if it was... A moment later, 7-Star brought Yuan to an empty room. They were some distance away when they heard the terrifying roar of a ferocious beast burst out of that room. Yuan. Haha. Have you ever experienced despair? I have. Yuan felt her legs growing weak upon hearing that sound. Can I not enter? He's an adult indeed. His roars turned so frightening. Big Dipper nodded repeatedly. Soon 7-Star opened the door to the room. Yuan looked inside and saw a pitch-black beast laying on the room's sofa. Noble, pitch-black, devilish. This was Yuan's first impression. Yuan finally realized Virus was a Black Panther. The Black Panther's icily glinting eyes slowly swept over Big Dipper and 7-Star before finally landing on Yuan. Sis Feng, don't you miss Virus? 7-Star asked Yuan. It's fine. Yuan forced a smile on her face. Fine your ass. Before 7-Star could say anything else, the Black Panther, Virus, leaped down from the sofa and walked toward them with his long tail swaying. Chapter 1327. Yuan smiled and tried her best to be calm. What should I do? Beasts were different from humans. They didn't rely on looks, they relied on scent. She could pretend to be Bro Flat Top in front of other people, but what about a beast? Yuan couldn't reveal any of her true thoughts in front of 7-Star, so she could only pray in her mind. Regardless of what Virus did, Yuan made up an excuse already. A beast was a beast after all. In addition, Big Dipper said Virus was just a cub when Bro Flat Top raised Virus, and Bro Flat Top disappeared when Virus was a year old. So many years had passed, so it would be very normal if Virus didn't recognize or forgot Bro Flat Top's scent. Right? Of course, Big Dipper would definitely believe Big Dipper's excuse, but whether 7-Star would also believe her was an entirely different matter. Roar! Virus suddenly released a loud roar when he approached Yuan. Yuan felt her eardrums hurting upon hearing a panther's roar at such a close range. It caused her to tremble with fear unwittingly. I'm doomed. Yuan's face turned ashen. She worked hard for so long, but ended up being exposed by a Black Panther. This freaking Seven Star's bone-chilling eyes landed on Yi Wanwan upon seeing Virus roar, and a terrifying, cold smile spread across his face. Yi Wanwan could even feel Seven Star's faint murderous aura. Actually, Yi Wanwan was about to give her prepared excuse when a furry object suddenly rubbed against her abdomen back and forth. Yi Wanwan reflexively looked down. Virus, who acted haughty and bloodthirsty just a second ago, was rubbing his large head against her like he was seeking affection. Yi Wanwan, WTF? Haha, sis Feng, I told you Virus was very smart back then. Look at how he still recognizes you after so many years. Big Dipper laughed and wildly stroked Virus' body with his right hand. Roar. Virus released a furious roar, and his black fur stood on its end. His eyes filled with a primitive savageness as he stared at Big Dipper. Big Dipper froze on the spot, his right hand still pinching Virus's left cheek. Sis Feng, talk to him. Virus, I fed you a chicken leg back then. Have you forgotten? Big Dipper hastily said. Yi Wanwan pulled away Big Dipper's hand. Did this punk want to lose his hand? Pinching a Black Panther's cheek without any restraint, she wouldn't pity him if his hand was bitten off. Behave, Virus, don't be angry. Yi Wanwan applied her technique for pacifying Great White to Virus. Upon seeing a lack of reaction from Virus, Yi Wanwan mustered her courage and used her right hand to gently scratch Virus' chin. The result elicited joy in Yi Wanwan. It looked like Virus enjoyed it. Sis Feng, Virus only acknowledges you and doesn't acknowledge anyone else. He's too dangerous. You should make him scram, Big Dipper told Yi Wanwan. How about I make you scram? Yi Wanwan glanced at Big Dipper. Big Dipper immediately put on a flattering smile and looked at Virus. Good guy, you only recognize one owner in your life. I admire you. Yi Wanwan. Where's your integrity? Seven Star stood on the side, and his expression became increasingly confused as he watched how familiar Virus acted with Yi Wanwan. Chapter 1328 Virus was adopted by Bro Flattop when he was young, so he only acknowledged Bro Flattop, and it was difficult for anyone else to approach him. Seven Star was surprised as he watched the close familiarity between Yi Wanwan and Virus. Seven Star was very suspicious about Yi Wanwan's identity as the president of the Fearless Alliance ever since he met her, and this suspicion intensified as time went on. However, Yi Wanwan managed to pass every single one of his tests, even if the reaction wasn't perfect. For example, Virus. If this woman really wasn't Bro Flattop, why would Virus act so familiar with her? Yi Wanwan herself was also extremely astonished. An inexplicable smile spread across Yi Wanwan's face as she watched Virus rubbing his giant head back and forth on her stomach. Brother, is your head itchy? Yi Wanwan didn't understand why Bro Flattop's pet, Virus, acted so familiar with her. Perhaps she was finally lucky for once. Auras were very mystical sometimes, like how Great White really liked Tang Tang the first time he met Tang Tang. President. An elderly man appeared out of nowhere and sprinted toward them. Isn't this Virus? He's also back. The elderly man was surprised when he saw the Black Panther next to Yi Wanwan. This elderly man wasn't a stranger to Yi Wanwan. She interacted with him when this elderly man and Seven Star planned to eliminate the Zhou family that day. What is it? Yi Wanwan gave the elderly man side-eye. The elderly man smiled ingratiatingly. President, it's like this. I just discovered a group of suspicious people near our headquarters. I bet they're up to no good. They might have even been sent by our enemies, so I came to ask President how I should handle it. If this was the past, he wouldn't have been so long-winded. He'd kill them directly. However, ever since the President returned, she hadn't sought him out to be her training partner like in the past, so he decided to use this opportunity to get some face time in front of the President. Do I need to teach you what to do about something like this? Yi Wanwan asked coldly. Looking into the matter will do. Release them if they're innocent. Imprison them if they were really sent by our enemies. Yes, yes, yes. The elderly man nodded frantically and turned to leave. The elderly man barely took a few steps before turning around and looking back at Yi Wanwan. He added, "Oh right, President, those people said their master was some Rose of Death and told us to give them some face." Rose of Death? Both Big Dipper and Seven Star were taken back. Rumors claimed that the Rose of Death was a super terrifying power that could rival Azura. However, didn't the Nye family disperse the rumors and say the Rose of Death didn't exist? The rumored Rose of Death was just fiction, and it was all a misunderstanding. So why did a Rose of Death suddenly pop up? Sis Feng, there's something fishy about this. How about we go take a look? Big Dipper asked Yuanwan. Yuanwan was also very stunned. This had to be a coincidence. China was so freaking far from the independent state. It couldn't be the 5-member mercenary group. If the 5-member mercenary group found her, wouldn't her identity be completely exposed? Yuanwan was inwardly muttering impossible, but remained calm on the surface. After some careful consideration, she assumed it was probably some fanatical fans who respected Rose of Death and were pretending to be Rose of Death. This was a common occurrence a long time ago. Chapter 1329 President. So should we capture them first and investigate the matter? Or does the president want to interrogate them personally? The elderly man asked Yuanwan. Let's go see them. Seven Star sounded detached. Yuanwan had no choice but to do that. She followed the elderly man and walked downstairs. 3rd floor, inside the detainment room. Little Lolita and her group all stared at each other blankly. Wasn't Emperor Ji too deceptive? Didn't he tell them their master was at the Fearless Alliance? Look at where they were now. After they scrounged up their courage and went to the Fearless Alliance, they announced themselves as the Rose of Death. The Fearless Alliance acted swiftly and locked them up straight away. Even though they were in the independent state, their master, Rose of Death, should be extremely renowned, right? Damn. We won't be killed inside the Fearless Alliance, right? Everyone knows the Fearless Alliance's characteristics. Heidi assessed their surroundings. It wasn't too possible for them to escape from this place. What should we do, Brother Chong? I'm scared. Long-haired man tugged bearded man's arm as he trembled. What are you scared about? Brother Chong is here. The Fearless Alliance has to give Brother Chong some face. Bearded man scoffed. Brother Chong, you're so awesome. So why are we still trapped here? Long-haired man looked at bearded man. Ahem. Maybe because the Fearless Alliance has a special way of treating guests, bearded man said. Heidi glanced at bearded man. We're about to die, yet you're still bluffing? How impudent. You dare to question my brother Chong. Damn fatty. Long-haired man glared fiercely at Heidi. Heidi didn't want to pay attention to long-haired man anymore and turned to the silent old Jiang. Old Jiang, what should we do now? Old Jiang shook his head. Their group was clueless about the independent state situation. And now, they were trapped inside the Fearless Alliance. How should he know what to do? So hungry. Little Lolita clutched her stomach with both hands and dejectedly sat to the side. The lights in the room suddenly turned on before Heidi could reply. 7 Star, Big Dipper, and the elderly man were the first to enter the room. What the hell do you want? Why did you capture us? Long-haired man angrily shouted at the elderly man. They didn't do anything at all. They just went to the Fearless Alliance to find their master. They offhandedly mentioned Rose of Death and were captured for no reason. It was completely unjustifiable. Shut up. The elderly man fiercely glared at long-haired man. He was the nosiest of that group. Shut up. Long-haired man snorted. Fine. Luying calmly glanced at 7 Star and didn't say anything. Only then did Yi Wanwan arrive belatedly and enter the room. Yi Wanwan looked inside. It was none other than the 5-member mercenary group captured inside the room. Yi Wanwan suddenly felt like doomsday was approaching. How did the 5-member mercenary group run to the independent state from China? How did they find the Fearless Alliance and discover she was there? When the mercenary group saw Yi Wanwan, they jolted. Emperor Ji didn't lie to them. Master was really in the Fearless Alliance. Little Lolita stood up and excitedly looked at Yi Wanwan. Mas. Little Lolita was about to call out when Yi Wanwan interrupted her with a wave. You're saying you're members of Rose of Death? Yi Wanwan shouted coldly while looking at little Lolita and her group. Chapter 1330. 1330 The five-member mercenary group was taken back upon hearing that. What does Master mean more than that? How come Master looks like she doesn't know us at all? I heard that. You came to the Fearless Alliance to look for someone, right? 7-star turned to Heidi and his group. Yes. Little Lolita automatically nodded. They were looking for someone indeed. And the person they were looking for showed up already. Then who are you looking for? 7-star had a meaningful look. Lu Ying looked at Yi Wanwan, then at 7-star. His brows furrowing and a pensive expression on his face. Yi Wanwan was truly miserable. If the five-member mercenary group didn't mention they were part of the Rose of Death, she could openly admit they were subordinates she acquired while she was gone from the independent state. However, the five-member mercenary group loudly proclaimed they were part of the Rose of Death. So Yi Wanwan absolutely couldn't admit it. Rose of Death was a fictional power and didn't exist, so why would Bro Flat Top pretend to be Black Widow when she was the president of the Fearless Alliance? Yi Wanwan decided she couldn't reveal her relationship to them no matter what. Otherwise, both the five-member mercenary group and she would end here today. You say you're members of the Rose of Death. Could it be that you came here today to look for Black Widow? Yi Wanwan was extremely anxious on the inside when she saw little Lolita about to say something, but had to maintain the calm and indifference on her face. Little Lolita was taken back. She looked at Yi Wanwan, not understanding Master's meaning. Why would we come here to look for Black Widow? The silent Lu Ying suddenly interjected. Lu Ying. Yi Wanwan automatically looked at Lu Ying. Yi Wanwan didn't notice Lu Ying when she entered the room, but her heart chilled when she saw him. Why was Lu Ying with the five-member mercenary group? There were grievances between her and Lu Ying. If Lu Ying carelessly said something, she'd die without a burial place. I didn't expect us to meet here, Lu Ying said. Yi Wanwan inwardly cursed. You know sis by phone? 7-star's icy gaze landed on Lu Ying. By phone. Lu Ying turned to 7-star. What by phone? You're saying she's by phone? What? You don't think she's by phone? 7-star's bone-chilling gaze nonchalantly glanced at Yi Wanwan. The five-member mercenary group was utterly confused. They didn't know what they should say. Of course she's not by phone. Lu Ying scoffed. Oh. 7-star looked thoughtful. Since you say you recognize her, then tell me who is she? Lu Ying looked at Yi Wanwan. Isn't she the president of the Fearless Alliance, Bro Flat Top? Yi Wanwan was already prepared for her identity to be exposed, but Lu Ying's words elicited astonishment inside of her. Haha, that's not strange. Most people don't know Sis Feng's name, and only know her nickname. Big Dipper laughed loudly. Oh, so the president of the Fearless Alliance, Bro Flat Top, is named by phone. Lu Ying nodded and swiftly turned to Yi Wanwan. President, I hope you've been well. It's been a while. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.